Hello. How is everyone doing tonight? Please let us know in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share on the video. And tonight we were just already having this conversation. We decided to have it on podcast instead. Basically talking about the idea of compliments, criticism, how these kind of things influence our life, how they normalize our experience, whatever else happens to come up having to do with that. Please let us know in the comments how you perceive compliments and criticism. What do those words mean to you? Probably the first thing we'll dig into what are actually like the dictionary definitions of these words to kind of set the space for what we're talking about. But let us know what you think they mean. This is episode number 34. We've been doing this 34 days in a row now.
And I'm 34 years old, so
Kind of crazy. That's a lot of days in a row. We started from not doing anything together, so to just suddenly start doing something
and
34 days in a row.
Right next to Zach now in Riverside, California, and I'm normally in Seattle, so that's pretty cool.
How fast things can happen. It turns out. So everybody, let me know if the audio levels sound off. They're probably right, but just in case they're not right, please let me know. Let's see. Let me go ahead and why don't you let them know about some stuff that's happening in the community and our fundraisers and stuff while I bring up the definitions of these words.
Cool. Okay, so we have several things going on. We have a GoFundMe as well as a Patreon that you can subscribe to help support the Shipibo people, one of the last native or original indigenous peoples to South America. And they're ones that Jen and Zach have been there personally, and they are like family to them, and they've done ceremony and things down there that have changed their lives and helped bring tremendous healing and wonderful things. So $4.50 feeds a family for a month. $450 is 100 families in the whole tribe for a month. So that's what we're going for, ideally monthly at this point because of lack of tourism coming in because of all the COVID things, to be able to support them and just in the future as they need to help supplement them in their own lifestyle and the beautiful work they do for their community and those around them. And then, so the Patreon will be a monthly subscription, which I subscribe to personally, and other things. Then the GoFundMe is a one-time donation as well. And all that can be tracked and found in the links below the chat in the description and on the webpage. Right now we have a Facebook group webpage, and we will have a webpage probably shortly in the future as things keep progressing. So we've got that going on in the local community. We've got Layla came through. She was here she ended up staying the night, and her and Kala and Jen and everybody had a great time. And then we've got staying with us, Joe, living with Zach here, and Lucy, and there's some other people, and we've just had great conversations. Mello came through yesterday and was hung out for several hours, and that was awesome. And we're talking about he'd be a part of, he's doing his own thing. Talked about this yesterday, I think, on Instagram, doing cooking shows and health cooking stuff, but his own quick, very creative takes on them that are awesome. They all sound like great ideas, and we'd love have him around more to try them out. So we're also going to possibly doing like culinary shows on that. Layla's coming back Monday or Tuesday, and then we're going to do a cooking show with her, a baking thing, one of her grandma's recipes and some of the ways she's tweaked it, and she's going to talk about her health stuff that she knows, and we're just going to have fun doing kind of a little baking show thing. We'll do that live when it comes out. We'll be posting that, so you know when that's going to come out in the Facebook and on Instagram, which links to our groups and our pages are in the chat below for that as well. So please also check that out, like and subscribe as you're listening, and we love you guys very much. This is awesome.
Thank you everybody for being here, everybody watching in the replays, everybody that shares this content or interacts with this stuff at all, even if you aren't part of our community. We really do appreciate you. Going into some words we talk about a lot on here. Whole show is about talking, so we should probably think about words. So, compliment. A polite expression of praise or admiration, or to politely congratulate or praise for something. And in a certain way, I think for the sake of this conversation, we should also recognize that functionally, because of this polite expression of praise or admiration, a compliment is akin to a blessing. Like you're sending positive vibes their way, right?
Yeah. We're not going to parse words about what blessing means. Blessing is a general sense, being a positive thing, yes.
Sure, kind of blessing as the inverse of curse. And as compliment is the inverse to criticism, where it is the expression of disapproval of someone or something based on perceived faults or mistakes, or the analysis and judgment of the merits and faults of a literary or artistic work. Where compliment is a polite expression of admiration, this is an expression of disapproval. So
Okay,
disapproval
so here's
versus
an interesting
admiration.
fact on criticism versus approval. Getting the point is to get beneficial results. So if you're using it as a tactic of expression for someone, for what reason? To bring a correction, to bring a benefit. I mean, whatever your end goal is, these are two ways to get there potentially, and there's debates on which one's more effective or and how it's used for sure. I think each one can be used very, very effectively if you learn to craft it well and hone it to the subjective dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. But also some studies, like I think they did a bunch of studies on trying to figure out if positive affirmation was actually better than showing someone, like for I think they did it with smoking. So like instead of showing them all these awful things that happen to your body when you smoke and all this shit and what it leads to, they started showing them this is all, instead only focusing on, like, people in general, especially because they know it's bad. There's already some moral negative connotations to smoking in science and whatever, but there's even internal belief systems. And so showing them all the benefits of not smoking. Here's what they're showing them, all the beauty of your lungs after so many days in your body and like all the shit. And
Sure.
that was like massively more effective than showing them just the negative. Like actually painting a vision of what the benefits are of letting something go versus this is why you need to let it go.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think we have to. I mean, Tony Robbins talks about that we can do anything, but we have to like really want to do it, or we need a reason to do it. And I think all those is like, something like that kind of paints a reason that's reasonable, right?
Yeah,
Like,
to you.
oh, look at these lungs that are all screwed up. Like
Right.
maybe that's a reasonable reason to not be doing that for yourself.
Right. Well, it's
But-
like, I guess, I mean, that would kind of tie into the dynamic of some people, the importance of pushing truth, right? Getting information out there absolutely matters, right?
Sure.
It's nice that the world is so active now in a lot of ways. Like, oh, there's a whole movement that can do that. Cool.
Sure.
Right. Now I can do this other shit too. And that's great. But the value of the actual truth getting out versus, what was the connection I was making there? Well, no, the other one I guess would be just thoughts or dialogue being out in a way where it's not just having to fight against false news or whatever, trying to fight for the truth. Okay, truth is out there. So I feel like a lot of that we and you have ingested on our own personal time and dynamic and research, and so us being able to come together knowing that baseline of truth. So obviously it's referenced and it shapes our conversations and projections in the future, but we're also creating a future that's free of a lot of that bullshit that we've been entangled in with for at least a couple generations as far as relevant in our oral history.
Yeah, I mean, this again comes down to that kind of two-sided operation, though, right? Like, which one's the truth? Someone may say, like, what is the A that's pressed right now is the truth, and someone else may say that B is actually the truth, and
Right.
B has been oppressed, and
Yeah.
that's the whole thing, Like, it's such a subjective thing when we start talking about the idea of truth.
Totally.
So, I mean,
When it's like I've heard the argument too. It's like when disclosure happens, I'm like, what disclosure, right? How many?
Sure.
Which one? There's literally millions. People have no idea. I don't even know all the ones. I'm sure they're hidden, but I know enough to know there's a lot that I don't know, and there's a
Right.
lot that goes on that is, would shock the world. Which maybe would shock me. I don't know, but like, I'm
Sure.
sort of trusting the universe, myself. For every step I'm taking, I will know what I need to know when I need to know it, and I'm enjoying learning along the way and finding those things.
right. Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of disclosure, at least in my own personal experience, like, every day is a disclosure, right? Like, I learn something new every day,
Right.
and I'm like, oh, that's happening,
Yeah.
right? Or, oh, that person's like that, or, oh, I'm like this. There's always something new to learn
Do you feel
every
like?
single day.
Do you feel like? I feel like. I read. Do you feel like sometimes the way I've described it I think before is like the whole truther thing, or when you get on a river of your own intuition of what's true, not just what's being fed to you externally, and you can get caught in these eddy pools, right? 9/11 truth or something, right? There's a lot of shit to learn there. Like it's
Sure.
worth taking time maybe to dive into that, but then people just stay there
Sure.
instead of taking that information and get back in the river. Right, so like they have that with you as you're continuing to move on. You're not just bound to like, I'm a 9/11 truther, that's your thing. And so you take all those things, but it's like eventually you do that, and even when you dip in there for a while, you have conversations with people, you meet people, you help out, whatever. But then you kind of move on. Like there's other shit to learn, right? There's a lot of other shit like that. And so, I mean, over time, it's like not even. I guess I feel like there's less pressure to have to teach anybody anything. There's so much to learn. Who cares, man? Like
Yeah, no
the
doubt.
shit I've gone through. What am I like? I could teach you a million things that I've learned in this lifetime alone that I know you probably don't know. Maybe you'll find interesting. Let me shotgun it. But at the same time, I don't really care to. Just whatever you find interesting, I guess.
Right.
It's like I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of like trying to purposely parse what someone else is going to find interesting. That's about impossible to actually do. I mean, it's so based off of like their own unique relevance, right? So like some of the shit that I find super interesting, I totally understand why I say stuff to people, and they're just like, why would I care about this?
Right.
So, in the sense of where we really came from this before the show with the compliment and criticism, was like I had referenced Maya Angelou, who, if you don't know who she is, she's kind of like original feminine empowerment, especially like black feminine empowerment. She's an author. She's won like a Nobel Peace Prize and stuff like this. Nevertheless, one of the concepts that she had is basically that like with other people, I don't pick it up, so I don't have to put it down. The idea that if I take praise from someone else, then I establish it in a place where like I render myself vulnerable to being put down by them if they aren't giving me that praise. And kind of then going beyond that, like what are the implications of taking compliments? Do you really need compliments from someone else? Like, is it worth the potential for the criticism? I don't know. I think there's a million different approaches to this. Would love to hear in the chat what you guys think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it worth it to take a compliment to possibly be subjected to a person's criticism when they change their mind? And we are always changing.
Okay, so the concept on taking a compliment or taking a criticism, so the way I've envisioned this for a while is, so anything anyone says to me is held out in my hand, so I can circumambulate it, assess it, and see what facets I feel like maybe really are encouraging. Like my heart
Sure.
could use that. That seems to resonate. There's no agenda there, even if it is whatever the way it was said or articulated or whatever. Like, yeah, I will receive that. But then other facets, maybe not. I'll hold them out here. But they're things so it's very selective what I take into me. Same in criticism. It's like just because someone sees something that's accurate doesn't mean that they're seeing it, all of it. They're seeing their facet, but the other facets they couldn't possibly know. So to be able to take that facet of criticism and disseminate it in a way that's actually effective for self, but it's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But that's a very personal. The point is, I guess, having a buffer between now, just like they've said a criticism, I have to either receive it or reject it. It's like the filtering process, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, but on the level of like valuing their opinion, right? Like if
their opinion's an reflection of you, I value truth. If they're showing me a facet of criticism that's like, oh shit, that's actually really accurate, I hadn't thought about that, I have thought about that might be a confirmation a little bit, but it's all a reflection of like, I'm bouncing off what I already know about myself and being open to maybe they're seeing something I don't, but I'm not like, I don't have to take the full everything they said to me is like everything in the way they said it. I'll take what resonates.
I mean, in a certain way, you could look at like Maya Angelou's stance as being one that's kind of trying to avoid the power of the criticism, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
like it's not really able to stand in the way of it. It just wants to not have it there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And maybe that's possible. I think it's definitely possible in the sense that, well, I don't really take compliments from other people. I think it's partially like defense mechanism, partially my own like insecurities. You could say whatever, it's because of this, that, or whatever history. In my current position right now, I don't really end up taking compliments, but that doesn't make my self-worth something that's like, oh shit, I'm not good enough. I'm totally fine. It's because of the compliments I give to myself.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that. And I don't really feel like I need compliments from somebody else. But I think I would be a more whole person if I was capable of really feeling a compliment when someone gave it to me, rather than just being like, yeah, okay, thanks. Which is really what, like, quite honestly happens like right now. Like if a person, no matter what they say, Zach, you're the greatest human on the planet, I'm like, all right, thanks.
Right.
Like it's the same thing if they were like, Zach, your shirt's nice. I would respond the same way.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that's a good thing, right?
Why are you even considering that it may not be a good thing? Because it sounds pretty efficient. Like it makes sense.
Efficient, sure.
Okay.
But for like having a really intimate connection with someone, it's a blockage in a certain sense, right? They can't like logically communicate to me with linguistics of feeling or a perception that they have of me and actually have that be internalized, because I buffer it with basically a defense mechanism that turns it into like a, yeah, okay, thanks, because I like neutralize the compliment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it sounds like a filtration system, because everybody has one, I think. That's why you reject criticism or reject compliments in general, people.
Sure.
But then if it's too much to one end of the spectrum, you filter out too much, maybe. So being able
Sure.
to tune it down. It's not like, oh, now I have to just be like,
Or maybe even get to the place where like you don't know how to actually even accept it. You know what I mean? Where the filter only knows how to operate at like 90% or above. So it basically just doesn't let it in at all. It's like, okay, what they said was positive affirmation, say thanks.
right,
You know
right.
what I
Yeah, yeah,
mean? Like,
totally. Yeah, yeah.
it's not even really like they're getting an emotion back. It's just like, oh,
But
okay,
that could
positive,
that's
thanks.
a progression in thought too, potentially from 100%, right? They don't even think about that. They're just like, they're like, oh wait, I should say thank you, or like that'd be, like they're making additional connections for the reason
Sure,
of
if it
wanting
was
to connect the
completely
feeling.
blocked out, the way that I think about it would be that like they literally like wouldn't hear it. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't think
You'd
they
be
hear
like,
it in the
Aaron,
cultural.
you're the greatest. And
Yeah.
you'd be like, so about those Los Angeles
Oh,
Dodgers
I
or whatever,
gotcha.
like it would be as
Yeah,
though it
yeah,
was
yeah,
not
yeah.
even in your reality,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you know?
I know what you're
So
talking
even
about.
at like 90%, this is just like, that's a scheme I made up
Yeah,
in my head.
right
It's
now,
not
yeah, I was trying
right,
to
you
go
know?
off of
It's
it.
just
Yeah,
some shit that I made up and I didn't tell you about it and then I operated off of it.
it
But
was great. Yeah,
yeah,
love it.
nevertheless, like, so let's see. Compliments should always be taken. It gives the other person a chance to give something. I've thought about it from this aspect too. The idea of that, like, I'm trying to provide a space for someone else to be authentic to themselves. And if they can't give a compliment that they really authentically mean and have it really authentically collected without defense,
Mm-hmm.
then really I haven't actually given them the space to authentically deliver it, right?
Yeah, it's really well thought about. Yeah, yeah, I like that.
So like, and that takes something away from them, the opportunity to be in love with you, we'll call it, to make
Mm-hmm.
it like hit home more,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like you want love and you seek love and you seek these loving people. Good question to ask yourself is, do you actually provide the space for yourself to be loved? Because there's a really good chance that you don't.
Mm-hmm.
In a whole lot of ways, you don't accept people's compliments. Maybe on the other side, you don't accept their criticisms.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
if someone really loves us, probably they're not trying to hurt us. If they then have a criticism, it's probably actually an objective perspective from a loving position that they're sharing with us in an attempt to allow us an opportunity to enhance ourselves
Mm-hmm.
from their perspective. Not necessarily claiming that their perspective is right if they're coming from a loving position. They're just saying, this is something maybe that I'm seeing. Here, maybe now you know about it because maybe you weren't seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're unwilling to take the criticism, then we don't allow them the space of that love. They come with the criticism, and it's like, why are you always nitpicking me, you asshole?
Right, right,
Or
right.
something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
right? So, this has really got something to it. Gives the other person the chance to give something.
Yeah.
Like I talk about like the idea like give snake and the take snake
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of times, and really like this is like the battle right here. Like I would change this word if I was like really programming myself. Compliments should always be received.
Received.
It gives the other person the chance to give,
Mm.
right? Because if you're not willing to receive something, someone can't give it to you. If someone
Yeah.
brings you everything that you need and steps it on your doorstep, and every morning when you leave your house, you step over it
Right.
and refuse to admit that it's
Yeah.
there, then they cannot give you that thing.
Right.
So they can't help you really. Sam rejected compliments for a long time. Sam, what caused you to stop rejecting compliments? How do you feel about stopping rejecting compliments? Were there functions of rejecting compliments that were better for you? Are there functions of this that are better or worse for you of now not rejecting compliments? Willow agrees with Charlotte minus the always part, that compliments should always be taken. Maybe just compliments should have the potential to be received.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like when I talk about myself with it, that's really my problem. It's not that like I do one or the other, it's that I can't do one of them. Like I don't have a schema for it. I don't have a function
Okay.
that does
Yeah,
that. I get the compliment, I'm like, yeah, thanks. And I'm
Yeah.
off to my own thing.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
realize like if you're telling me like, wow, Zach, what you just did was awesome. Inside of my head, there's like a team of monkeys that are going like, good job, Zach. And I'm already like, yeah, I crushed it. That was amazing. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you say to me, that was amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm trying to like be, fake humble or something. It's
Right.
literally just a defense mechanism of like, I don't take people's compliments because I don't want to hear this other shit that they have to say about me. I don't care.
Huh.
You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
So I just like out their opinion.
Yeah.
But I don't really like, as long I need to be able to also in their opinion. And with their criticisms, I found ways to do that.
Yeah.
Just like being personally super focused on learning, then like any opportunity to get data, I'm like, okay, I appreciate it for the opportunity to get data, right? But on the compliment side, it's like, I don't really need this shit. I already feel great about myself. Like, I don't need you to tell me that I'm awesome for me to feel like that. Like, I feel like I'm awesome
Right.
when I wake up, before I open my eyes, do my daily life review. I'm like, all right, you're mostly crushing it. What could you tweak?
Yeah, no doubt.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty good
Right.
with this. I've worked on it for a long time. So, but I would like to find a way to incorporate that more, mainly because I feel like I'm incapable right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know why I did it. I understand the benefit of it. The place where I came from growing up, you didn't want to accept people's compliments because their criticisms were right around the corner. 100,000%.
Yeah.
So, I don't live in that world anymore. So like I know why I was carrying my shield at one time, but I'm no longer on the battlefield. It's kind of time to hang it up, but I don't really know how to put it down now. My arm's all like this all the time or whatever, right?
Oh, what a sweet metaphor. It's very sweet, endearing. It's true. It's a good one.
Compliments used to make me uncomfortable, but I've learned to accept them. It's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple sketchy situations with this. Like I've overcome the block on a couple of occasions. And it was the worst time to overcome the block. Universal joke on that one. Like I overcome the block, accept it deep into my heart, and then the relationship completely shifts to something else and fucking explodes, for lack of a better word. And it's like, I never should have accepted it. I knew it. You know what I mean? But it's not my intuition saying it's 100% my logic that says I shouldn't do it. My intuition says you should do it. And my logic's like, you're going to get fucked. And my intuition's like, yeah, he is, but you should still do it anyways. And then usually, most of the time, I'm like, I'm going to Eddie out on the logic, I'm afraid. Basically.
Yeah. Eddie out on the logic,
I'm going to avoid taking it.
That was a great way to incorporate that metaphor.
Because realistically, like, it provides the chance for a problem I don't want to deal with. Yeah.
Because it hurts? I mean, I imagine that's the reason. The logic's like, yep, nope, that hurts, not doing that. Nope.
My problem, too, I just realized that advice that I've been giving people for something completely different, saying no, is actually advice I need to take for this. I need to take small compliments first and get okay with those so that I can ebb into taking a big compliment. Because what I've done so far is I've been in like, 3 specific situations where I was like, fuck, I really want to be able to feel this compliment. But it's because it was like this huge compliment, right? So I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And it's basically like being like, man, I really want to know what it's like to swim. I'm going to jump in the deepest part of the ocean with a crazy current. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to know what it's like to really be in the water. And really, that's kind of a stupid way of going about it. You should probably like go in the kiddie pool first. So I think I need to go in the kiddie pool with the compliments. I've decided on the fly right here.
Zach, I think you're a pretty okay person.
I appreciate that, Aaron.
Can you receive that? I felt
I mean, like I'm
that
definitely
was a
at
very
least
shallow
okay.
comment.
So I take that completely fine. I'm definitely at least okay. You'd
saw
have
him
to have
smile.
a pretty
You should see him
twisted.
smile when I
You'd
said
have to
that.
have
He
a
actually
pretty
genuinely
twisted
appreciated that.
perception of reality to think that I wasn't at least okay. I don't do anything to hurt anybody else. I don't break any laws. I help a lot of people. Like there's not really reasons to think this stuff. So, whatever.
Look how happy he is with that compliment. What a nice compliment.
Pretty okay. It's doing all right. Learning to love myself is the difference. Yeah, learning to love myself is a process even for me. Like I wasn't doing this at all until I was like, I need to love myself. I didn't love myself. I like respected myself. That's an interesting recognition, honestly, that there was actually a difference between that. Yeah. In a certain way, like the compliment and the criticism, they hold the same space, right? They're just like, again, like Walter Russell shit, anode, cathode of opinion, right? Expressed opinion, I guess. Because, like,
I'm trying
these
to think,
don't really exist in your
I'm trying
mind.
to think of, like, really meaningful compliments I've received, right? Deep in my heart, right? Changing in some way. And then also really deep criticisms. I think I don't know, there's a couple ways I guess I can look back and look at it, but, like, one of them is both being prepared that either one can destroy you. And honestly, best case scenario, it will. Because one, at least that's interesting, right? Like something destroyed me. That I'm a pretty solid fucking human being, right? I figured a lot of shit out. I've made through a lot of shit. Like, and it destroyed me. Fuck, that's interesting, at least. Right? But then either one, like from destruction comes new, that's where you find it. Let's say destruction only happens if the foundation, some level you weren't aware of, was cracked. Oh shit! Like I
Yeah.
wanted to fix that anyway, so I'm kind of glad it happened now rather than later. So even if it was through love and being vulnerable, receiving this thing, and then your heart broken, or through isolating yourself and never allowing yourself to feel that at all, but then there's its own pain in that from lack of emotional connection, I guess, on the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like either one, or anywhere in between. Like they're just like can try it anywhere. Like that quote from that movie, the one I've talked about, the Power of the Heart. It's on Amazon. But that the real, what was it? So the something to the effect of the purpose of with the heart, having a heart, is that we get to experience wholeness here on earth, not just know about it conceptually before incarnating or after or outside of a body or all this shit, like an actual heart. So that's why you always follow the heart, in the truest sense of the word, not just like follow your emotions, but then no, follow your heart, because it will probably lead to destruction, but ultimately because it knows that's the thing we're here to experience and to grow and to rebuild and to recohere some shit.
I've definitely noticed through following my heart that it's definitely not always leading the place that feels the best.
Right. Which is interesting.
Place where you learn the most, I think.
Right. I was going to say, yeah.
Hyper efficient learning mechanism. There's no doubt about that. Like, well, I don't know. The heart has that like 7-stage compression, biology says. It's basically my life. Fucking 7-stage compression. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, this is a lot of pressure. Chunk, 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 chunk. It's even more pressure now, and now it's spinning. It's like, oh, great. Yeah. But it's fun. It's fun to deal with it. Like, it always feels good. That's where you get the real good compliment, is when your life like just got squeezed to shit and spun around at light speed, and you're like, oh no, I got this. Like, you feel like you're actually have the ship righted, even though that happened. You know what I mean? That's really like, I don't know. I think that's maybe one of the best feelings. Jasmine got in here late, but on the topic of compliments, I remember one day I went into Circle K to buy chips, and I was not feeling myself. No makeup, in pajamas, basically. And the cashier gave me the best compliment. He told me, don't take this the wrong way, but I think you're really pretty. I told him, thank you. That was the best thing I'd heard all day. Had you just woken up? You said you were in your pajamas. Because that's a pretty funny response if you were. You're like, I've been awake for 5 minutes. That's the nicest thing I've heard all day. She left with a big smile, though. That's what really matters. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter.
See, and you're not you left a big smile. So you're not, and this isn't to denigrate the compliment, because really we don't know. The assumption here is it's pure intentions, but why? Because it made you feel good. I
just like to make jokes.
But the point is, it made you feel good, right? So even if let's say this guy is like pervy whatever, and he's just trying to get in your pants and he's desperate or whatever, for whatever his reasons are, so who cares? He made that compliment. The way you received that, because where you were positioned in perceiving yourself, you just needed someone to mirror that back to you, and you already believed that about yourself anyway. So for you, that amplified what you already believed, but potentially if he said something awful, would you have felt just as bad? And if you would, why? Why would somebody else's perspective?
Because you also think that at the same time. Isn't that confusing? About the human brain, right?
Totally.
Someone can come up to you and tell you, like, you're really smart. And you're like, I fucking am. And they can come up and they can be like, you're a dumb shit. And you're like, I am.
Yeah.
Like, you think two mutually exclusive things about yourself at the same time. Like
even in the church, learning the dynamic of you're not fighting against the accuser, Satan, Hasatan, the accuser, or the adversary, that you come into agreement with him quickly, because the only things he has against you is what you've already done, man, who you actually are. So like, yep, you're right. Or like understanding that human being is a synonym for hypocrite, or hypocrite is a synonym for human being.
Yeah.
So if you come in agreement with that and not trying to put on a facade, like we're all growing, we're all human, we all have our issues, we all have things we know we should do and tell other people to do, but we don't do ourselves, and like, but it's all of us are in that in a million spheres of life at any given time. We're all growing.
Yeah, I mean, I think either the compliment or the criticism, the blessing or the curse, the anode or the cathode, these can all be like used to grow. You just gotta use them in the right way, right?
Yep, makes sense to me.
Like they're all acceptable tools. This is like where I really like rationalize that there's not anything wrong with reality. Like, they're all acceptable tools for doing something, just like sometimes they're the opposite way of using it.
Yeah, totally.
Like
a different facet of getting to the same objective.
Yeah, I mean, like, by seeing famine all over the world, technically we can understand what the concept of its inverse would be by going like, It's everything that this isn't, right?
Yeah.
There's millions of starving people on the planet. Well, I just replace those starving people with people who are overeating, and then that's the inverse, right? And so technically I can learn about it from either side. I just got to use the tool right.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to use the tool right in the minute sometimes, especially when you want to accept the compliment. One thing I had said before about this, and like for anybody watching this, you should always be looking out for being manipulated by other people, because we do it like not even on purpose, okay? But realize like when someone gives you a compliment, like they might know that you're going to accept that compliment, and that makes it right for them to set a dialectic that kind of determines the ways that the relationship goes. So you do need to be, aware when you're taking a compliment from somebody else or a criticism, right?
And if taking the awareness a step farther, because it's not like, oh, now I'm aware, I see that there was ulterior motives there, and now like move past that stage pretty quickly. Like the point is being aware. If you're aware, you don't have to make judgment. You don't have to call them out. Like sometimes if you realize that they're doing it subconsciously, what's the point in calling them out? I mean, you could, or you can just not let it bother you, because of your awareness. You filter out those tainted frequencies, and it doesn't affect your relationship. So there's so much you can do with awareness that you don't say shit to anybody. It's for your own awareness to deal with your own shit.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason you have to say anything to them really is that like because you're like attached to like teaching them how they're supposed to be doing it, right?
I've
like,
seen it, so I must teach you.
Yeah, you can just be like aware, like, okay, that's a manipulation. Like I'm not gonna take that one inside.
No big deal.
I recognize that you're right. I am beautiful, but I also recognize you're saying that to get my money.
100%. And even though,
but you're right.
Even if like those are
you're right.
extremes,
I am that.
But I recognize that there's some over
attachment
to me or whatever. Like, but even in the minor sense, like you can decipher between the layers of what's in a compliment, what's in a conversation, because there's so many seen and unseen, even to the person themselves. So I give people a lot more credit than maybe they do themselves, the things they may be doing unconsciously. But again, I'm not, especially if it's unconscious, I need to adjust my relationship or my boundaries to that person, any dynamic that we're in. And so there's coherence on my end. And so I'm not going to change them. Doesn't, like there's some people who cohere with more easily, and then you show up at their place and stay here for a week within 30 days of meeting them, like us. But then there's other people like, yeah, we're not going to hang out very much because there's not a lot of coherence here, and this is a lot of effort to try to.
I have this
coherence.
like this whole concept of like loving through like living in a village, and like you have like the people that sleep in the same bed as you, the people who live in the same house, the next door neighbor, but then you also got the other people that you love in the village that live all the way on the other fucking side of the village. Like, and you stay over there, okay?
Much,
I love you, and I will protect your house if some like animals try to attack it, or there's another tribe coming and attacking it or something. But like other than that, just stay over there, okay?
Yeah.
I don't really want to hear it out of you. It just made me remind myself that I'm pretty even at my worst.
Yeah.
Definitely true.
100%. Yeah, 100% true.
Really, and also like I mean, even on the level of physical beauty, it has so much more to do with how you feel about yourself and how you carry yourself than it does like. I mean, speaking from a male perspective, I've seen plenty of girls that were walking around in pajamas that I was like, damn, you know what I mean? Like. I didn't care if she had pajamas on and she hadn't done anything with herself. It still sparked the same response inside of me. So, Zach, you're a decent guy. I appreciate that.
What a compliment.
Not just superficially pretty, but all around, we are beautifully human.
100%.
Yeah, and I like how you worded that too. We're beautifully human.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and human's not a perfect thing. It's an evolving thing, and it's doing the best it can. And we're beautifully doing the best we can in any moment. That's one thing that's really helped me a lot in my life, realizing that like everybody does what they do, trying to do the thing that's the good thing to do. No one actively tries to be bad.
Right.
Like even if they're like whatever, they're committing a crime, they sell drugs or something, right? In their situation, they're like, how do I get me and my people, my family, whatever I care about, elevated to the level that I want to do it? What's the most effective way to do that, or what is maybe in some cases the only way to do that? And then they make the choice based off of really the same criteria that anybody else does. What takes what I care about and elevates it.
Right.
So no one's doing something like anything just because they want to be. That's not
right.
And there's arguments against this, right? Like psychology says that like there's certain disorders where the people functionally do want to be bad. But I argue that disorder simply shifts completely the function of what they believe is good.
Right.
Right?
Totally.
It's not actually them wanting to be
I
bad.
agree with you 100% because I feel like even the most wicked, awful people, they know this is evil. They know they're told they're evil.
Right.
But they know in their belief system, whatever that is for whatever reason, a lot of time is because of the trauma they've endured, blah, blah, blah. But still, to them, they're gaining approval. This is to them the good thing to do, the right thing to do, even if they're fighting shame and guilt or whatever.
Sure.
It doesn't mean it is objectively good, obviously, in some of the worst case scenarios, but understanding their psyche.
Right.
And understanding how human they are in relation to us. We're all human. They've just been through different experiences, different traumas, and have a different understanding of
We're all human. They're just a different hue, man.
Yeah, man. We're all different hues, bro.
Oh,
Stop
man.
judging me.
I
ain't a color, I was a hue.
Being kinder to yourself is...
Being
learning to love myself is the difference. And being kinder to yourself, like hand in hand with that, right?
Be like kin to yourself like family.
I have an interesting situation too and it kind of goes in line with this because I've internalized my own like, you're a good person so much, even to the level of having the defense mechanism that blocks something else. So I'm not like better than somebody else. There's just like I blocked out this part and got it all from in here, right? Like. It's no better. It's just as half full as just another format. But because of that, the like being kinder to yourself, I've actually opened up a lot of space to be really rigid and rough with myself, and it doesn't like de-escalate me to like there's so many positive things said about myself to myself that hitting myself with like you're such an idiot is like not a problem. Like I honestly like think it's a little bit funny in certain ways. It generates a little bit of reprieve, but from other people that I've worked with or just other people's lives that I've watched, I see how like that function would not work for them. Right? Like they need to make sure they're saying like good stuff to themselves.
Right,
they're being kinder to yourself.
Yeah.
And I think like all this is it's like you got to be kinder, or you have to be anything more to yourself until you're plenty of that, and then you don't need to be more, right?
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's just like the kinder thing. I think I'm really kind to myself because I've avoided the kindness of the world.
Oh, totally.
Which is quite possibly to perpetuate my own personal belief that the world is a bad place. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe the world is not a bad place, and I've just been projecting that my whole life because like I was very much so raised into a place where I was like, you got to watch your government. The TV's trying to manipulate you. Don't trust the police. Your friends are probably lying to you. You know, all these kinds of things. Like my mom was very paranoid and very much so like, and it's weird because she was very controlled about that paranoia, right? Like she wasn't worried anything was going to happen. She was just more like, here's the top 10 list of things you need to prepare yourself for, right? And she was more about preparation. So you needed to know what it was. But in many ways it did like sculpt a format of the world where I was like, yeah, this place isn't very nice. You know what I mean? Like, you should probably definitely do stuff for yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was actually shocked when I met this kid that I still talk to all the time now when I was like 15 or 14 or something like that. And like over the first couple years, it looked like we could really trust each other. And I was like, this is going to fucking blow up terribly. I was just waiting for it to blow up, but I waited for it to blow up 5 years, then 10 years, then 15 years, then 20 years.
Yeah.
Then now we're like here 21 years. Like I don't know that we've ever slighted each other's trust in the slightest. Like not even for like a joke. Like where's the remote control? Haven't seen it. Like we haven't even done that. You know what I mean? Like no slights on it. It just never happened.
Yeah.
You know? But at the same time, like I watched 100,000 other people around it. It was like, whoa, these people are scandalous, right? Like they're trying to lie to you the whole time. So, you know, I don't know. I definitely agree with this next comment. Listen to your heart, head, and gut. Follow your intuition.
100%.
Like, and really, like, I mean, for me, intuition is like the combination of those three brains.
Yeah.
You know? And when I have those three brains really functioning properly, then I can properly follow my intuition as a whole thing.
I agree 100%.
And 1,000% follow your intuition, especially if you've been some of the places that I was. Like, you know, everybody around you is literally trying to lie to you to get something out of you, and you need to like navigate this minefield, basically. So it's not that great, and that's like, there's a lot of worlds that are like that. You know, the corporate world can be very much so like that in a lot of positions all over the place. You know, like government work, there's always somebody that's trying to take your job instead because you get paid more to do less. That's how government escalation predominantly works, really. So Jasmine's always in pajamas, so it might not have been right when she woke up.
Awesome.
That's not bad. Aaron was in pajamas most of the day the other day. He's kind of in pajamas right now. He's in some purple shorts. It was actually purely genuine. He was timid, so it came from the heart. I've had lots of perverts hit on me when I worked at Lowe's. There's a difference from you have a nice body versus you're pretty.
No, 100% right. And I didn't want to diminish anything from that interaction, just to clarify it all. I was just talking about it conceptually. But yeah, for sure. For sure. Really.
Did you ever laugh at this one that you have here? Like, not that they were wrong, just the intentions behind it. I used to mix paint, and the worst one that was common was, can you shake it for me? Like, in a certain way, did you ever laugh at the cleverness? Even though, obviously, like, that's a rude-ass thing to say to somebody else. I don't think they should do that. I would never say that, but I'm not saying that I wouldn't go like, that's kind of a funny connection.
Yeah, totally.
Referencing me to actually shake their paint cans, but also making gestures with it. Wow. I've been so surprised in my life by how forward some men are with women.
Dude,
like
just the whole dick pic thing. I don't even understand.
I do not
understand.
either. I mean, I'm not going to say I've never sent a naked picture to someone else, but it was like they requested it from me.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't just be like, hey, how you doing today? Bam.
Bam.
You know what I mean?
No
Like,
shit.
that's so crazy to me. Like, whoa, really?
Wow.
Okay. But at the same time, like, I've had guy friends that, like,
send you dick pics.
well, I mean, of course. It's not just the ladies that it's limited
right
to.
Now,
but nevertheless, no, like guys that just like, and watching them being like my friend group and we go to parties or whatever kind of stuff. And the way that they go and just like hit on a girl, which already, like, let's face it, hit on a girl, hit on a guy, like that's not very good terminology, right? Like, what are we really trying to do here? But the idea of they went and approached some woman and their methodology was like, really, that's what you go up to someone and say? And like, the crazy thing though was it's like, in your mind, being me, I'm like, you seriously go out to somebody and talk to them like that and you think it's gonna, oh my god, that actually worked.
Oh, sure, I got you.
In some situations.
Oh my god, it actually worked.
Yeah, like there's no way that's ever gonna work. Oh my gosh,
Oh
it's
my God,
working.
it's working.
How is this happening?
Yeah, then it's like psychology, figuring out like all this shit.
Yeah,
because that makes sense. I mean,
it's almost like they come up with some kind of self-fulfilling
the problem is when
prophecy.
you figure out the reasons, it just gets disappointing. It's like, oh, trauma. Oh, and you don't.
That generally is the reason for this. I think our trauma renders us highly manipulatable, right?
Totally.
They're triggers,
right?
And like, if you can get someone to get into a reaction, it is likely that will lead to a chain of reactions, and that reaction or chain of reactions is oftentimes premeditatable. And thus, that is a manipulatable dialectic. That's really all you need right there. Yes, I always think everyone is doing the best they can, given their life, brain chemistry, which way the wind is blowing, etc. Exactly, right? Like,
what a great
it's
sentence.
so true, though. The variables are just infinite. You know what I mean? Like, they could completely change their mind on how they deal with something because their toe hurts.
Yeah, right.
You know, like
sure.
the simplest thing. It's so crazy. This was such a good way to put it.
Yeah, wow, well
like,
said.
Given their life, brain chemistry, they're all like highbrow, which way the wind is blowing. Oh my God. Hugs to you, Maya. Good to see you as well. I think this I don't understand was in reference to the unsolicited picture of the penis, which does anyone understand it? Actually,
no, but Sasha Hika in the group wrote a super good post on it, like a while ago. Like, really, she wrote this like super articulate thing to speak to the men out there or something, like, because it happens a lot, right? I'm like, shit, that's really well said. So there are articulations out there, but I
got an open message to the men right now.
Let's do it.
Don't send a picture of a penis. Send a picture of a puppy. It will work out much better for you.
Really, and bots change your algorithms if that's what's going on. But men too, like real men. That's absurd that you do that. So do send bunnies. Send bunnies or puppies or send some shit. Like,
so ridiculous.
Really. I mean, what's your goal, really? Like, that's got to be like a spam thing. They just try that 1,000 times, knowing they'll get back like 1%.
It's like fishing, dude.
And like,
you know what? Like a guy that's a bad fisherman. He doesn't know anything about the spot. He simply knows that, like, if you have this fishing rod and reel and you put a worm on the end of a hook and you put it in the water, sometimes a fish bites on it.
Right.
So he just keeps on throwing that worm out there.
Yeah.
Right? And eventually, maybe a fish does bite on it.
Yeah.
It might be
And
an
apparently
enormous fish. It
some
might be a
men,
little
like,
tiny
maybe
fish. We don't know.
hours of their day saying dick pics is worth the return on investment for fishing. You know, that just seems absurd to me, and like also abrasive and just kind of intrusive. But maybe they find that valuable. I don't understand. I don't know.
Sure.
I
I
guess.
don't know. I feel like it had to have worked for someone, right? Otherwise, like the
Apparently, why would this be a
morphogenetic
thing?
field would have been like, this doesn't work.
Right.
You know, they would think about it. They'd be like, chikeek. Nah. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. That's bad. The lighting's all wrong. It's the lighting. It's cold
the
in here,
lighting.
and the lighting is all wrong. I can't send that one.
Uh,
I laughed the first time, but it was more common than you think, and usually from older men, so it got creepy.
right.
I can,
no
I mean,
doubt.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Lowe's was a weird place for men to hit on the women employees. The weirdest one was a doctor who I thought was well mannered. Then he began to stalk me at work and wanted to fly me to London to marry his brother, who needed a good woman to answer his phone.
Wow. So thank you for my severance, large, extra big severance package, and I won't sue you. And have a nice life. Right? That's how that goes with the doctor.
That's a
or
really
boss.
weird experience.
That's weird. Yeah, I'm sorry.
He would call me Princess Jazz. This guy was trying to play out
Wow.
Aladdin or something.
Oh shit.
I feel like that's what it was.
Rest
He
in
didn't let you
Jasmine.
know this part. If you would have gone to England, they actually had like a whole made up castle that was actually all like
His
Arabian
brother
Nights.
would have been Jafar.
And no, he would have played Jafar.
Oh yeah.
His brother
Okay.
was Aladdin,
All
and he
right.
would have had like a little monkey and
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
and like a genie, but it really just would have been like a maid or something like that.
Yeah.
You know,
That sounds good.
that's a
That's
parallel
probably
reality
what's
that
gonna
exists
happen,
now.
Jasmine. Just so you know.
Yeah,
Don't feel
Uh,
too bad.
it's good advice. I like your puppy idea. Send poodles, not noodles.
Not nudes or noodles, yeah.
Yeah,
Poodles, not nudes.
yeah, no doubt. Don't want your nudes, dudes. It seems weird, but I guess maybe it's this, right? They go, would I like to receive an unsolicited naked picture of her?
They're like, yes, I would.
Yes, I would. That would be fantastic. So what's
she
the most
must
likely way to
not
get
receive
one?
it.
Exchange,
Yeah.
direct exchange, right? So
Reciprocity.
here's a picture of me naked. I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
Oh my god, yeah. It's like being 7 years old at a birthday party or something like that.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly,
I'll
right?
show you mine.
Yeah. Maybe
It's, like,
that's
super sexual. I don't know.
the idea behind it. I don't
Maybe
know.
that's they're trying going back to their childhood to try to figure out how to get women.
Why are
together,
you
like,
doing that on a platform
sorry.
other than like Tinder or
No
something?
doubt. I don't know.
Like,
It's
why?
Really, I just.
What's the idea
It makes
behind
me
that?
think, like, really, are there that many men like that, or is that some kind of bot or weird thing? Really, there's that many men who do that. That most women experience this regularly. I have such
In the
a hard time
chat,
believing
please
real-
let us know how many penis pics you have received
on
from
an
people
average
in your
monthly
life.
basis or some shit.
I bet these numbers are going to be high.
Maybe,
honestly.
I know. I've been surprised every
You know,
time I've like. what
I
the
know
fuck,
from
man?
personally living around women in the modern age that it's crazy sometimes. Like literally no conversation whatsoever. Like, hey, answer me, penis.
Mm-hmm.
Literally no response.
Yeah.
Literally no response, and then that after like commanding them to answer me. Is that how you do that with things in real life? You're like, Aaron, look at me, shitting,
Yeah.
and that gets you the result.
I can't hear you. Can you
Like,
just show me your penis?
that always makes people look.
Yeah.
They need something to laugh at.
Well, I don't care who you are. Whipping out your penis in a context like that's pretty funny. Could get you in trouble. But it is
Jen
funny.
could not even count how many penis pics she's received. Jen, how high can you count though?
Yeah, because that doesn't help narrow it down. How many a month? Like maybe break down. Last month,
No.
how many do you feel like you
It's a
got?
lot, dude.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I know.
Like-
I know. I
like
know
one a
about
day
her
on average,
accounts
it's crazy.
personally.
It's like one a
From-
day. Okay, it's like one a day.
I don't know about one a
If you broke it
day per se.
I mean, how many a month? Like 10, 20 a month then?
I don't have numbers. It's
That's
a
what we're
lot.
trying to figure
It's
out.
a lot. I know numbers are hard.
It's a
Numbers
lot.
are
It's a
hard.
lot.
Numbers are hard. It happens more than I care to think about.
Yeah.
We have right here. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I get it.
I guess.
But if you've never even had a conversation with that person, it doesn't exactly,
Doesn't
right?
make sense. Yeah, it
Like,
makes no
what
sense.
is the likelihood? It's so weird. No way will I ever tell you. Charlotte gets a lot of them, apparently.
No way
right?
will I ever tell
A
you.
lot of them.
There's nothing for you to be
She will
ashamed
not
about. You
even
should, like, out
disclose.
them, how many pieces of shit
Now
that
we
we
know
can-
why
can-
Charlotte's phone broke the other day. It was
It was
flooded by
enormously
male
flooded by a
genitalia.
quantity of penises.
Whew,
Digitally, they
it's
weighed
tough
the phone
out there.
down.
It is tough out there. undoubtedly.
She will never tell.
Compliments versus criticism when they send a penis pic. Do you bother to give one or the other, or do you just not respond? That's the question, right? I don't know.
Is that the question?
I feel like it's a deal breaker. We don't talk anymore. Growing up in Santa Ana, California, I'd walk to school every day just one block, and there was always construction workers and even just cars passing by, older men whistling at presumably her. Yeah, the catcalling is a weird thing,
Yeah.
because it's like you're not actually even trying to start a conversation with them really when you do that, right?
Yeah, you're trying to get attention.
What kind of attention are you trying to get? Like this reverberance of like, oh, you're looking at me. Hi. Like, what is that? It's so weird. Started getting catcalled at 12. At 12-year-old girls, so we would curse them out mostly in Spanish. It's crazy, right? Like, aren't we at like a social agreement that pedophilia is probably not the best idea?
Yeah, no shit.
I guess when we were at that. But it seems like when they walk down the street, all of a sudden, like, random construction worker, like, it's all good. Oh, well, see, I didn't know. I was at work and they were across the street. Yeah.
How about you just don't
I'm
treat...
pretty sure you
hold on,
know.
though. How about you just don't treat women like that? Then you won't have to... Well, I didn't
Also
know she
that.
was 12.
Also
I
that.
mean, if she was 16 or 18, then I would have treated her like meat.
Yeah, apparently not everyone got the memo. It backfired on me bad once a drunk. I basically told him, your mom, bitch, in Spanish, and he grabbed me and wouldn't let go. Sounds dangerous.
So next time, you got to think about this shit. All right, since this came up, it's a little gross and hard for people to think about sometimes, men or women. But so if you're in a situation where you're going to get raped, man, you have to understand that you have to think ahead of time. The only way out of that, most likely, is you can hopefully get your thumbs into his eyeballs. I'm dead serious. You press until they fucking pop like grapes. Mm-hmm. Right? And you have to be prepared mentally. You're going to blind someone for life. Absolutely. But if they're violating you in that sense, you need to pre-decide that is worth it. Right? And you need to pre-decide and prepare your brain or your gut to be able to pop eyeballs and expect it and push until that happens. So in the moment, that's how you react. But you have to pre-decide you're going to do that shit. Because if you don't know, then it just happens and it's this trauma that affects your life and whatever. It's still traumatic, the whole dynamic. But I don't know how much better to actually get out of the situation not raped and the guy's blind for life. So... Sounds like a much better situation to me.
I find it's better to not put ourselves in situations where that could happen.
Well, but nobody puts themselves inside the shit, though.
Sometimes they definitely do. Like, there's dangerous situations out there, and sometimes people end up inside of them for a variety of reasons. It's nothing against them. It's just saying, like, if you really want to make sure that something doesn't happen in your life, I want to make sure that I don't get hit by a car. So every single time that I come around places where cars drive, I stay very aware for cars that could be around.
I don't. I'm just 608 feet tall and I walk where I walk and cars avoid me.
But I do. I mean, I do, though.
But I also wear a blindfold when I cross the street.
And it feels very safe. This isn't to say that it's like, whatever their fault. I don't feel like there's actually like you should have this situation of like I can't be in that place because sometimes people are raping people over there like that. What? Why are we doing that?
Yeah.
But I always have an escape plan. I'm ready to fight. You can avoid a lot of these situations. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, like if you're going across your day-to-day life,
yeah.
standard life, and this happens to you, obviously like crazy, right? Like what kind of world do we live in? But on the other side of it too, like most of these situations happen in something that could be recognized as like it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Like maybe guys aren't as likely to have this, but guys are equally likely to get robbed in a rough and tumble area as anyone else. And if you go into a rough and tumble area and you got all kinds of crazy cool jewelry on and you're flashing around a bunch of money, you statistically increase the chances that you will be robbed.
Right.
You know what I mean? And really just on that level of function, I think we can definitely like do something.
Yeah, we'll come to, there's levels of actions we can take to make it easier, for sure.
This is an interesting concept here too, that you can declare that it won't happen to you, eliminate from your reality. 100%. I think if you really did believe that that's not a thing that would ever possibly happen to you, I think there's a really good chance that is actually true.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I agree.
It's one thing to have a balding fat man want to send you one, but quite different if it's a lover. Sure. Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. I reckon there's more of them out there from the balding fat men than the latter, though, unfortunately. There were people present, but they all laughed because they knew him, even my friends. But I got loose and ran home, and they were not my friends after that. Yeah,
Good
fair
call.
enough. I mean, in a certain way, I think you saw in that moment they weren't your friends before that.
Mm-hmm.
100%. A lot of that stuff led to me moving in the middle of nowhere, Texas. My mom was always worried about us. Yeah, I hear that. And again, that's like another thing, right? Like you had to deal with basically these compliments that are functionally unwanted, so they're taken like a criticism. And as a byproduct of that interaction, you then end up in a place that we're calling the middle of nowhere, Texas, right? When we say middle of nowhere, it has certain implications, usually lower connectivity. You know what I mean? So, like, and is that implication functionally a byproduct of that, like, you know, you've gotten these kinds of situations, you know? That's not. Do you want to live in the middle of nowhere in Texas? I'm curious to hear.
Do you, Jasmine? Do you want to live in the middle of nowhere?
I mean, I'd be fine with it if the internet
Texas.
connection was good enough.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's all I'm really worried about. I pretty much hang out with the people that live with me anyways. So as long as there was a good internet connection, it would be pretty solid.
Stretch on over here. Nice.
Yeah. So, in another sense too, with the blessing and the curses, going back to like the original concept of the evil eye, really like both the blessing and the curse are a function of the evil eye. And this kind of carries over with the compliment criticism, both being that like they're casting some type of perception upon you, right? And then on either side, either they're cursing you to not ever be able to become that, or they're cursing you to be that, right? Realize like, oh, you one way that this is really brought about inside of like various esoteric books is like the idea of that like your baby is so beautiful, right? Like, well, being beautiful has over time, a la that story of the Helen of Troy or many other beautiful women, there's been a lot of chaos that comes around as a byproduct of them basically being a beautiful woman.
Yep.
So being the beautiful baby isn't intrinsically actually a compliment.
Right.
It's also functionally a curse to deal with all the things that beauty entails.
Yep.
Right? A lot of positives, maybe not all positives, though.
Not as many as people think. It's just
Is anything all positive?
Yeah.
Not that I've found.
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of things that seem really good. Peace on earth seems all positive, but you know, like on the surface, how strong is the populace after 200,000 years of peace on earth?
It depends on what kind of peace and how it's established, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, like, well, what happens to the people? You know, I mean, functionally, like,
Well, it depends on what you carry on for tradition, oral tradition, and history. So if you still raise people with, you know, the ideas of, not even war, maybe of sovereignty in such a way that there's no outside attack that gets through. I mean, it depends. Like, there always is something bigger, stronger. I mean, universe changes, whatever. But like, imagine, yeah, after a while, you get so disconnected that you lose concept of the reality we're in now.
Inevitably, you normalize like
Right.
basically everyone being like nice and unified and all this stuff,
sure.
right? Then there's one disruptive force that comes in, and the thing's functionally invisible,
Right.
and it can cause enormous amounts of disruption.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I know.
As a teen, I thought it was the worst, but as an adult, I definitely appreciate it more. But I would like to travel more and see more scenery. I hear that. One of the good parts about living in the middle of nowhere is usually like it's not that expensive to live there. So if you do set yourself up right,
Especially if you can do solar and stuff wherever you need.
sometimes you can get a lot more traveling in if you live in a place like that. You have to suffer to be beautiful. I don't know that I entirely agree with
her
it.
mom told her that.
Yeah.
When as a kid.
Yeah. But I think in essence, I agree with this.
I think like that's been the human experience. I mean, that's wise advice. It's better than just like, oh, it's great to be beautiful. Like, at least your
Right.
mom is aware. They're like, no, there's a little more to it than that. Like, to suffer to be. I mean, think about just pop stars and stuff. Like, when you actually see, if you've seen certain documentaries, or just think about their life. Like, when you see real raw aspects of how fucking, they signed up for it in a sense, but at the same time, like, no privacy. And just having people always see you for the roles you played or for things that aren't you, you know, and the people always love you and idolize you for that shit. And like, I don't know, it's like, that's exhausting to be desired and craved for things that aren't even you, the roles you played, or even if it is you, to have that constant draw of like vampiric energy from the masses, want to, you know, imagine fucking you or all this other shit. Like, you know, it's like you're getting that constant draw. So it's not, it's just like, you're not some elevated princess or being taken care of, and like because you're so beautiful and life's so easy for you. Yeah, doors are open more for pretty people in a sense, or charismatic people, but it doesn't mean it doesn't come with a lot of other shit people don't even think about because they wouldn't know.
Fair enough. Yeah. I don't know. I have trouble subscribing completely to concepts that insinuate like a guarantee of suffering.
Right.
Yeah. But in essence, I definitely.
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same. I agree with the sentiment, but not the articulation.
Yeah, totally.
I'm exactly the same with it. I think, like Aaron said, it's been a process of the human experience so far that the things that are really well sculpted, so beautiful, have gone through some format of suffering. The statue of David wasn't crafted by like smooth strokes entirely. There is some hard hits on there.
Mm-hmm.
We live in one of the most affordable places in the U.S., but downside is the wages are also low. But what would be a $600,000 in California would only cost around $150,000 new build. I mean, internet and get clients in places where they pay more money. That would be my answer to that, really. Well, lots of things that we can do on the internet to make money, really, if we put the time into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I really need to get something to drink. We're going to take like a quick 5 to 10 minute break to get drinks because we did not get drinks before this. And we'll play some quick music during that, and we'll be right back. We love all of you. Please be sure to like and subscribe and share and all of that good stuff. And we will see you back again in just a moment. All right, we are partially back. Yeah, there was a bit of a break going on. We forgot to get anything to drink before we started, so we went and got stuff to drink. Nevertheless, we are back now. Let's see, some announcements. Tomorrow you got Angela's show at 1 o'clock, Women's Work. She usually has some other ladies call in with her. Definitely a very interesting show. Make sure to check that out again, 1 o'clock Pacific time. Jen, of course, will be back at 5 o'clock Pacific time tomorrow as well. We will be back on at 8 o'clock Pacific time tomorrow. So lots of shows on Monday right now, 1, 5, and 8 o'clock. In addition to that, if you would like to help out the community in any way, we're really we need to make show notes, but we don't necessarily need you to sit there and make notes of the entire show. If you hear something inside the show that is particularly piques your interest or something, if you could just timestamp it in the comments, or maybe even just get a timestamp and send it to me on social media, or put it in the chat, or something that you thought was interesting like that would really help us out a lot, because we are going to go through these podcasts and kind of create smaller pieces of content, kind of as a highlight reel kind of stuff. And by having you guys tell us what has already been kind of a highlight to you, it makes us, easier for us to decide what other people are going to like rather than just what appeals to us. So if you do feel like helping out, that would be appreciated. If you don't, that's fine too. This is something that we're doing on our own, more in depth, just to make, there's reasons why you want to do that. Mello, it is good to see you here. Glad that you are in here again. Always nice to see you. Again, we got the Patreon and the GoFundMe going for anybody that's watching in the replay, helping out Indigenous people in the Amazon during, there's a lot of reasons right now where they're basically in a time of need. Encroaching capitalism is always a case down there. There's constantly all types of various different things down there. There's really just not a lot of good services in the Amazon. So thankfully, it's also very cheap to live there. So we can do a lot with a little to help these people out. Aaron will be back in just a moment. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Willow took a dance break.
Yay.
Dance break is always a good idea.
I'd like to see it.
You can never dance too much, I don't think. But
Zach dances every day. For how many years?
Quite a lot of them. I don't know, 20 something.
I think that's what he said.
Kind of like 20 or something.
WhatsApp chat. WhatsApp chat.
Kind of wish my son was awake to have a dance partner. That's a good reason.
Yeah.
One good thing about a kid. You got somebody to do funny kid stuff with.
Yeah. No
all
one
the
argue
time.
with you. Usually probably go dance and they're down.
Yeah.
Let's throw a tantrum maybe.
Lucinda says we all should have ice cream. There's some cookies and cream ice cream in the freezer. If you want some, you're welcome to have some. Apparently, Willow's mushrooms have kicked in and they make her want to dance.
Yay.
Mello wants to dance.
Cool, Mello. You can come swing by.
Jasmine's fine with it.
Come on by again, Mello. Let's dance. Have some food.
Yeah. Hopefully, before Aaron heads out, we might be able to get everybody over here again.
Mm-hmm. Anytime next few days. Let's make it happen.
Definitely be nice.
What Joe say? I just saw Joe comment.
Ice cream and mushrooms, I believe is what Joe said.
I agree, Joe.
Yeah.
Soon, my friend.
Yeah. Just a bit of mushrooms. Not too many, unless
Just
you
the
don't
tip.
feel good.
Just
Then
the
take
tip of the
more.
mushrooms. Then eat more.
Just the tip. Yeah. Good tip.
Good
For
tip.
sure. So, at any rate, compliments and criticism was kind of the topic of the evening. We've kind of covered the idea of it. It's a double-edged sword. Most things are actually a double-edged sword. We got to be careful of these things. Make sure that you're complimenting yourself enough. Make sure that, I personally take some time to compliment myself every single day, whether it's by a specific practice of doing what you call maybe mirror work or something, or really just appreciating what I'm doing in the moment, even just taking the time to actually appreciate a joke you told or something like that. Joke can be very beneficial, even if it's just funny to you, if you actually get a good laugh from it, and that can do a lot to help you feel good about yourself. I think that's important. It's important to feel good about ourselves. Also good to embrace criticism inside yourself. You can't grow if you think you're already perfect.
Well,
all the
it's like
time.
Jordan Peterson talks about, like, it's always it's beneficial to also not always feel good about yourself. Like if you're a piece of shit, maybe you should feel bad about piece of shit, and you don't want to be that way anymore, and like
Sure.
creating a new vision or a new life or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But also, so benefiting the times when you do feel positive about yourself, right? Because that's actually will change your own neurology, and it's not like you have to lie to yourself. It's choosing to focus on the Okay, like we were talking about earlier with the studies with the cigarettes and shit. So you're focusing on the things that you know about yourself, or you desire for yourself, or you're creating the reality that you are presently want to exist from, but you're also moving into in a linear 3D time. So focusing on the vision or the positive things, not denying the negative or what's real now or the place we have shortcomings when we're hypocrites, because we all are, but being able to give more weight to, I guess, the our own compliments from ourselves instead of more weight to the criticism. Like you're talking, certain people are raised or different dynamics, we're taught that is actually a more beneficial way to live, yet
Sure.
at a certain point in life we decide, okay, maybe it's not, maybe I'll try the other thing.
Yeah. I mean, in a certain way, like it's better to give yourself the opportunity to grow than to like fluff yourself up for your whole life, I think.
Right.
But if you're
Well, and that's
in
where
too
like
much
think where people are
excess
like,
of
well,
any of them,
we give kids too much self-esteem and like all this shit. It's like, well, yeah, if you're telling them to think things about themselves that aren't true, you're trying to repeat programs to prop themselves up on bullshit that just sounds good. Like, no, you need to find like shit that's true about the kid or about yourself that is true, and you're building those truths into your life so you believe them in your neurology.
Sure.
Instead of it's just, oh, I know it's true about me, but really I'm a piece of shit. It's like, okay, but if you're not a piece of shit though, then maybe those things are really, really true about you, and the piece of shit part isn't so true. So stop clinging to that narrative.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, I think we need to use discernment on any narrative that we run in our life, just because the function of a narrative is basically cyclical. Yeah, and like.
And if you're in a spiral, like there's narratives I use for my own personal NLP, or I'm training my brain or listening to things back, but there's almost nothing I still listen to today consistently. They're always beneficial for a season to bump me up another cycle or something. Or if I return to old material, now it's like perceived from a higher level, so it's additionally beneficial, but in ways it wasn't before.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not that the narrative is bad or that the cycle is bad. It's that we should use proper discernment to ensure that cycle is functioning in our favor.
So the cycle is creating a spiral. So it's repetition with illumination. It's like, to me, when you're doing things over and over, but there's not benefit, it's just a ritual. You're just doing it. It's not actually bringing you a form of balance or coherence or enlightenment or awareness.
Sure.
Why are you still doing it? Or just in general.
Yeah, I mean, there should be a reason why you're doing stuff. I think that's kind of like going to like live your life with purpose. Yeah.
Well, beyond the reason of, well, it's a good thing to do. Well, I know when I started this practice 10 years ago, it really helped me. Well, does it still really help you now, or it's just something you do?
Yeah. Good question to ask yourself.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times you'll find that like, well, nope, it's still good, Yeah. But a lot of times you'll be like, yeah, I've really learned from that, all that I could learn from that without the discernment.
Why do I still do that? Oh, I don't really get anything out of that. I did then, and I appreciate that, but now I don't. So let me do something different.
Yeah.
A new belief system, new belief catalyst, new symbol set.
Yeah, you got to give yourself the opportunity for change. You're going to stay the same thing forever.
Opportunity for change.
And that's really that's what a compliment and criticism is, right? Like opportunity for change in a certain way.
Or change, or a affirmation of something you already believed to be true about yourself, but now it's being mirrored to you externally in a positive way. So affirming what you already believed about yourself in a nice way, because it's mirrored externally. Well, that's nice.
Yeah, but what's the point of like an affirmation besides changing the perspective? Right, like
affirming your perspective. So if it's an affirmation, it's affirming.
Right, but it changes the perspective by way of making it more solidified, because it has been affirmed.
Sure.
So it is a change in perspective still.
Okay.
To affirm something, or if it wasn't changing the perspective, we wouldn't value it at all. It would do nothing.
Well, okay, but you're saying change. I feel like there's a difference between changing a perspective. Criticism maybe is changing a perspective. An affirmation of something you already thought or already knew it's just anchoring in an already perspective. It's not changing.
But having something more anchored in is a change.
Well, okay, right, technically. I'm just trying to get a deviation off like a progression. It's like criticisms. Like, I'm traveling this way. They criticize me. I think about it in a way I've never thought.
Well, that's why I said it's an opportunity for change. In the broad scope of change means a deviation in any direction, whether it's a compliment or a criticism.
Technically, you are correct, Zach. All right, fine. You win.
We have the opportunity for adjustment.
Yeah.
In either side of them, but we need to use discernment to understand how they're adjusting us.
Well said.
So
well discerned and spoken.
Yeah. I mean, some people aren't really out there for your best interest. That's something I've
No doubt.
definitely learned the hard way in my life in certain ways. You know, a lot of people are too. Yeah. But, yeah, a lot of people, most people will more care about what they want for themselves. You know, especially like business world. It's a mutual benefit world
Mhm.
in most cases. So, like, if they're not getting anything out of it, they probably suddenly don't really actually care about you anymore. We see this all over in like the employee-employer interaction, right?
Mhm.
Like, we'll look at a compliment from an employer. Yeah, you're doing a great job today, John. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't say that because he necessarily really thinks that you're doing a great job. He probably said that because he went to some type of managerial course and they
Right,
taught
right,
him in
right.
order to keep morale up, you need to give everyone at least one compliment a day. And he's like, here's fucking John's
So
compliment.
then next level might think is, oh, because a sincere compliment might look something like, and this is true, and it might look something like the boss pulling you in or manager pulling you into their office for no reason. Just say, look, I've watched you over the last couple of weeks, and I can tell that you actually care about what you're doing, and I can tell you're working hard and you're learning and you're growing, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your attitude here, blah blah, all that stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's it, like whatever, like cool. But then also, you could learn in a managerial program, give very, very, very intimate and specific compliments to the person so it doesn't seem generic, so that you increase productivity in the employees, right? It could be done in a very mathematical sense,
Could be.
or it could be done in a sense where you genuinely believe what you are saying and how it is actually creating a feeling state in the employee that makes them want to be a better employee naturally, just because you're actually perceiving true things about them. You're perceiving things that matter to them. They go to work hard. They want to make money. Like, you're honoring what they are doing. You're not just
Mm-hmm.
like, well, you're not producing enough. Like, you're actually honoring the things they are doing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's it's like the intention behind it, right? Like if there's not actual authenticity in there, then it's
Right.
always a snake in the fucking
Yeah,
grass,
no doubt. Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Even if they don't know it's a snake in the grass, it's just an unconscious snake in the
Yeah,
grass,
no
which is
shit.
maybe more dangerous.
Yeah,
You know,
especially if you're
what's more
unconscious.
dangerous, a rattlesnake or an invisible rattlesnake? Like, I'm gonna take the normal rattlesnake any day of the week.
But visible or invisible, if you walk on the ground with your shoes off, then they can feel your vibration and your intentions, and they're not a danger to you anyway. So when you show up stomping with boots out of nowhere, and then they freak out and they're rattling, and you just see it out of nowhere, otherwise your emanation through the conductivity of the ground and your feet and your DNA skin suit, through your intentions, would be felt ahead of time. So yeah,
That is what some people believe,
that's what I
and other people are like, them damn rattlesnakes, they're no good.
They just bad.
You just need to kill them.
Invisible ones, they real bad.
As soon as you hear a
Real
rattlesnake, you
bad.
just grab your shotgun.
Invisible, I can't see it. That's
The
dangerous.
best way to take care of
I
it.
don't understand it.
Pour
It's
gasoline on it,
dangerous.
light it on fire.
Set that on fire. Light on fire.
It's crazy the thing that some people do to like animals that they consider to be like dangerous. You know, whether it be like a black widow spider, and then like they're out there with a can of hairspray and a lighter shooting the thing with a fucking flamethrower, basically,
Yeah,
and they're
sure.
like, it's justified to them because it's a black widow. That thing could kill you.
Right.
You know, and it's like, yeah, a thing could kill you, but like, you could also light your fucking house on fire right now, right, buddy? Like,
Yeah,
what
no
are you
shit.
doing?
No shit.
Yeah, sounds like my grandpa. He sees a snake and grabs a shovel and rifle. That was like the standard way of dealing with one. He can shoot it and then he
Shovel
cut its
and
head off
rifle,
just to
yeah,
make
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't kill it with the rifle, it'll at least stun it. So, I don't want to kill animals that I don't like. I just don't want to be around them. LOL,
Yeah.
aka rattlesnakes for sure.
Yeah, Jen just
Yeah.
mentioned to me on the smoke break here because I've seen earwigs once, twice here, and I'm just like, oh, I'm just being careful not to be too close. They have big old pinchers on them and shit. And I don't
Sure.
know if it's true, but you hear about them getting your ear called earwigs at night or
Mhm.
some shit. I don't know. But anyway, so
Is that true, by the way? Does anybody in
Yeah,
chat know
somebody
whether
know.
an
Somebody
earwig
had
will
that.
actually like burrow into your head?
I'd like
and-
first story experience. Say, yes, one time I woke up and this earwig crawled out my ear.
Oh, yeah.
Like, motherfucker.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I was bleeding. Like, I want to hear
I-
a story here.
I actually got an earwig in my ear right now.
Yeah, actually, look at this. But then she brought up and like it kind of like not creeps me out, but like okay, Mela was saying, right? I just don't want to think
Mhm.
about him. That's fine. Put it. It's not in a place where they're gonna call on me. I don't need to think about it. Then Jen goes, "Did you know that there's flying earwigs?"
Oof.
I'm like, "Oh my god." Wow, thank you for bringing that to my awareness, Jen. I didn't need to know that existed, but now I do. Please tell me about this.
It says those things might actually be aliens in reference to earwigs. They're pretty weird looking.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure.
What if the insect kingdom and the animal kingdoms, they all have their own long-term multimillionaire agenda? It's not just one kingdom. They all do. But we're the ones here figuring
What
it
if?
out. And then we got to figure out what to do about that
Yeah.
while we're here.
I mean, what if every kingdom is like living on top of some other kingdom and their success is actually dependent on the success of the kingdom below them? and functionally they are controlled by the kingdom below and above them because their own success is dependent on the other ones being successful, but that is in effect a success of the other kingdom as well.
Yeah.
So they're symbiotically working together, but not together at all.
Right. Everybody with their own agenda. I think it's fascinating. It's a whole other layer of reality that's really awesome to have to unfold. Makes things a little exciting again.
Jasmine says she used to have a rattlesnake on top of her fridge at her grandma's house. She literally saves dead bugs and birds. That's kind of creepy. Little bit creepy. The birds
nice
one
sentiment,
for some reason is creepy to me. The like having a lot of people got a snake skin, right? That's kind of a dead snake in your house. I think a lot of entomology doesn't keep live bugs usually. They usually keep dead bug specimens. But birds, it like seems so can you imagine walking into somebody's house and they're like, "Let me take you to my aviary," and you walk in there and it's just a bunch of dead birds in glass cases like, all over the place. You're like, "Oh, this is kind of fucking creepy."
I've seen scary movies. This is where it gets weird. I'm out.
yeah. This is where the movie gets weird. I'm gonna go.
I thought you seemed nice, but I've seen this in movies too. This isn't good. I'm leaving.
Jen says earwigs do not burrow into you or your ears.
That's
okay. Well, that's good to know. I'm not that scared of them anymore. Bring it on.
One's fly now, so I'm a little scared. But
yeah, but what are they gonna do? They're gonna fly into you and they're gonna like pinch you with millimeter pinchers.
Do you see how big they are?
Like a millimeter.
Like their body.
Yeah, but that's like a millimeter or something.
That hurts, especially in my brain.
I don't know.
What if it's in my brain in the middle of the night in my ear? No thanks. It's my brain, fucker.
Okay.
Why'd you call it?
Feel free to be afraid of earwigs then. It's your choice.
I'm afraid.
You have a friend who's genuinely extremely afraid of the pincher bug. It seems like you have two friends because Aaron also is
I just don't want to think about it.
Extremely, genuinely afraid of the pincher bug. And it's 1 millimeter long
my next
pinchers.
antigen experience. Oh, damn it.
Pincher bugs everywhere.
I'll get over it. Fine.
Mantis men and stuff. I don't like killing bugs, but sometimes I flush them down the toilet and imagine I'm returning them to Mother Earth. Yeah, I mean, I feel like our entire life is kind of in a certain way like a justification of what we do,
Well, yeah, it has to be.
Even if you put like intention to it, you know what I mean? You're like, so Earth is the trees. Fire destroys trees. But if we include it in some type of cleansing ritual to burn the tree after we have chopped it down and killed it, now the tree is helping us to cleanse the energy, and it was apparently an effective usage of it, and everything has been returned to its right place. And if you take the time to logic that, that maybe doesn't actually entirely compute. You know what I mean?
Depends on what layer of logic you want to zoom in on and apply.
I'm not saying burning sage in Palo Santo doesn't energetically cleanse your space. If you can't feel it do that, you probably have extremely blocked intuition and empathy because you can feel it.
Yeah.
Very much so. So it's doing something, but also still at the same time, the logic of it is like, so, okay, if someone killed you and cut off your leg, do you think that you would consciously be supporting their burning of your leg to get your assistance?
Nope. Probably not.
Because that's technically the same thing.
Maybe you were sold on it. Maybe you're like, yeah, please take my leg. I'm sold.
That's like that was their purpose on the planet.
Yes, maybe that's what they felt.
Maybe it was.
I lived my whole life for this. Take my leg.
Yeah.
This is it.
I've finally made it
soul.
To the height. I'm being chopped down by a human, and they're going to burn me for ritual purposes.
I haven't thought about this too much right now. Do you think maybe there's souls, in a sense, who literally chose at a higher level to incarnate here to be some kind of sacrifice? I know on a higher level we chose. I get that.
Yes.
But I mean, like, that. No, their energy they feel as they're being sacrificed, tormented, or killed, or whatever. They feel deeply internally they're fulfilling their soul's purpose.
Yes.
They're not like, oh my God, this is an awful way to die.
Yeah. I do.
Yeah.
It came through connecting with, we spoke about just a second ago, Black Widow consciousness. I realized that like the male Black Widow, basically its life cycle is to be birthed from the web of a powerful woman and to then leave that web, grow up himself and seek out a woman that is also very, very powerful and has built her own web, get that thing to allow him to come into the web. But he has to morphogenetically know that the next step is we have sex and then she murders me.
Right. Yeah.
He has to know that.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that ever happens.
Right.
It never goes a different way. It never goes like, oh, look, yeah, you know what? Actually, just go ahead and take off. It's
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
big deal. That's not how it goes. It's just part of their cycle. So in a certain way, the male black widow, by obtaining its full circle of life, means to be hatched from functionally a prior dimension of the same thing that's going to destroy him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if he gets killed by something besides the female Black Widow, then maybe he's like, oh man,
I gotta
I didn't make
reincarnate and
it.
do it again.
I got stepped on by a boot
Yeah, yeah.
instead, or I got
Totally.
killed by a giant flamethrower made out of Aquanet and a lighter,
Right.
whatever the case is. But, like,
Yeah, yeah.
if he finds the woman after growing up, and that woman was powerful enough to, court him, get him into the web, have sex with him, kill him, provide their clutch, technically he obtained like the highest format of their life
Spider
cycle,
Samadhi.
right?
Black
Yeah,
male spider
exactly.
Samadhi. Yeah.
Like it's technically the male Black Widow's sadhana
Sadhana.
to be born and then be killed by the same thing that bore you, right?
Okay, so that makes sense totally conceptually, even if we're applying that to humans. But it makes more sense, I guess, morally or conceptually. That it would apply to bugs. Like on our conscious level, we would choose to have that type of experience, self-sacrifice to our own, whatever. Like, I get that for sure on a bug level, but like, and I get it. I guess I can get it conceptually as a human too. Like, so we've had so many lifetimes. I get it. I really feel like we've had millions of lifetimes. It's not just like, oh, I've had 100, I've had 10,000. Like, I don't think people realize.
Maybe you were a male Black Widow who successfully accomplished his life before.
Or maybe you took you forever to accomplish that life because you kept getting stepped on. So you had like 10,000 Black Widow lives till you figured that shit out.
Perhaps 10,000 lifetimes ago, you were a Black Widow and you successfully obtained enlightenment at that scale by sacrificing yourself to a woman, and some kind of contract or morphogenetic type of information is still inside of you that makes you think, maybe if I sacrifice myself to a woman, I'll obtain enlightenment. And that's really like the seed of where it is
Totally.
that like, 10,000 lifetimes ago, you were a Black Widow and
Yeah.
it worked out good for you.
So being able to discern in yourself, like, what's your attraction to other people too? Like, is it attraction of a Black Widow? Like, am I going to get eaten here? But it feels right. Does it feel right? Does it feel right to you now in this life now, or does it feel right to you then? Because like, I don't want to get consumed by some other trap. Like, that's not my lifetime. That's not what I'm doing.
But as Mello says here, at least you'd go out with a bang.
That's true. Or at least a chomp. As he bites your head off.
Oh man, earwig meditation.
bang.
I
That's
mean,
right, I get
personally,
it. I
I'd like
get
to
it.
pass.
No. Oh man. Maybe.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
See,
That might
she
be
she
good.
found out that they don't burrow their own ways into our brain, so she wants to burrow them into our brain
Ooh.
for them.
But this is confronting.
Maybe
too.
she was an earwig in another life, and she's carrying out her conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Primordial earwig conditioning before their ability to burrow in your brains was evolved out of their being. May or may not be a thing.
Maybe earwigs have their own agenda, very specific, like the slugs, and they keep trying to get into our show because we're open to it, and maybe we're opening portals into like agendas that are going to take over the world. And
Yeah.
like, whoops. Sorry, guys.
Whoops. Slugmen now.
Whoops. Sorry.
Yikes.
Eee.
She had a dead hummingbird. Jasmine's referencing her grandma's dead bird collection. She had a dead hummingbird sitting on a teacup in her china cabinet. LOL. I don't know if it's... That is so creepy. Like, I would have to ask if I could get a glass of tea while I was there. And then whenever she brought me a cup that didn't have a dead hummingbird, I'd be like, do you have another glass?
Yeah. You can find out for sure.
Wait
can
until
ask her
she
about
brings me the one that has a dead hummingbird floating in a
Like,
cup
wow,
of tea.
this is so cool. Tell me about
This is the one I was looking for. Why do you have
Yeah,
this?
tell me. I'm so interested. I think creepy sometimes just because we don't understand. Because like with some trauma with
Exactly.
her, like, a bird died when she's younger, so now she can't get over birds dying. She can't grieve death. Blah 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 blah. I don't know. It's creepy, but is it really creepy? I mean, it's probably just from some kind of something. It's like
My
it's
personal take
explainable.
is if I think something's weird and someone else does it like as totally normal thing for their life,
Yeah.
I'm probably actually the weird one. Like there's some schema of looking at life where that's normal.
Yeah.
I can't see it.
Right.
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
call it weird.
Totally. Yeah. It's weird to me. It's abnormal to me.
Yeah.
Therefore, it is weird to me. But to them, obviously, it's normal.
As soon as I say that's weird, I'm like, I must figure it out.
Yeah, no doubt. Right. Yeah, weird is interesting.
I
like
must
weird.
figure out how you normalize that. That is too weird.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Weird is intriguing.
this has been in a certain way. We talk about the Black Widow. There's a way that like I've sacrificed myself, a la the Black Widow, in very much so that way, going like this thing is weird. I want to learn about it. This isn't gonna go well.
Yeah, right.
And then
yeah,
you do it anyways.
Yeah. But I
Right?
wanted to learn about it. And you're like, yes, I did, even though I'm in pain.
Ah.
I wanted to learn about it, but now I'm not sure.
Yeah. We get raised with these colloquialisms like no pain, no gain.
Right.
And then like it justifies us doing shit that it's
Painful
like,
shit.
well, maybe I don't
Yeah,
know
right,
about
no
all
doubt.
that, actually. Yeah.
I remember there's a handful of sayings my dad said that always clung with me, but one of them was, don't create any drama in your life. Life has enough drama for itself.
Mm.
You know, like you don't go create drama, man. You're gonna have drama.
Yeah.
For human beings interacting with other human beings. So
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely plenty of problems in the world. I don't like. You could just work on knocking those out rather than creating more.
yeah,
I don't understand why people create so many in their local life. Like,
right.
you know, inside of the home life of the modern individual, or we'll even just say their standard day to day, like there's a lot of problems or, you know, perceived as problems that definitely could be avoided, that they're just not, like, people choose to engage with them.
Right.
I've been a huge, I don't know what the right word is for this, whatever, person that did it, right? Like a person that's done this a lot with just like being rigid on my logic and effectiveness and process and efficiency. And I'm, you know, it's kind of that like, no, don't do it this way. It's better to do it this way. And you're not really like intending to be like, no, I need you to do everything exactly like me. But that's basically what it turns into.
Sure, yeah.
You know, you don't really intend that. You're really like, look, you could save a minute out of your life every single time you ever do this by doing it this way. I highly recommend you do it that way. And then the next time you see them doing it, they're not doing it that way. And you're like, look, you could save a minute out of your life every time. And you want to have this like 5-minute conversation about how they could save a minute of their life every time without recognizing like, wait, but technically I'm wasting 5 minutes of my life to have this conversation.
Yeah.
I'm also requiring their attention. So it's 5 minutes out of theirs, and they're still going to do it the same way. So now we got a loss of 11 minutes to talk about how you could have saved one.
You get angry at them next time, but really you're angry that you're taking more and more time out of your life, and they're not doing something.
If you just like ignored them doing that, you wouldn't know.
Right.
You just wouldn't
put
know.
Out of your awareness.
That's like, and that's basically like my thing. Like if nowadays when I'm like, I see someone doing something, and like out of my mouth starts to jump the advice of how they could do that better, I just turn all that energy around with my whole body and walk away. Just like, shut up. Just literally get out of eyesight of it. And then within 2 seconds, I'm no longer even thinking about what it is that they're doing.
Yeah, totally.
I'm thinking about how like, well, this is how you open the gate so that I can get out of here.
Yeah.
And like, it's done now. Like, I don't care how they're doing it now.
Yeah. Totally.
It means nothing.
Your way to see it.
So... for sure, I used to nitpick so much about everything. I'm sure it came from my grandma. She'd tell me to clean something, then go back and tell me I did it wrong, and she'd clean it all over again. My mom was huge on that as well. You know, like she'd ask you to clean something, you'd clean it the best that you could, given your I'm like 10 years old knowledge or something.
Yeah.
And she'd get over there and she'd be like, what is this?
Yeah.
What? Like, I thought I asked you to clean this. And it's like, I like totally spent twice as long on that as I thought I should have. And she's like, well, you fucking weren't really trying, were you?
We used to, with my ex-wife, we used to take turn, or like when I'd clean, I'd just do it when she wasn't home.
Yeah.
Right, because it'd be clean, and then like, oh, it's clean. But if she saw me doing it, I'm not.
Then
doing
you were
it
doing
the
it
right
wrong.
way. Yeah, and it's like, just listen. The end result is the same thing you want, right?
Yeah.
Just don't watch me do
go
it.
away.
Yeah. So you're going out today? I'll be cleaning.
Cool. The house will be clean when you get back. Well, why aren't you working on it right now? Well, because you're still here.
That's right, 100%.
Because I have a strict I don't vacuum when you're home policy,
100%.
because you make me have all of the lines going the exact same way, and that makes it take like 40 extra minutes.
Or no matter which way I do it, 'cause I'm
effect.
pretty sure I've modified the way I clean the house based on your previous comments and criticisms every time, yet I still don't ever seem to do it right. Just go.
Yeah.
And I'll get it done. It's fine.
And that's the interesting thing about sometimes getting in the nitpick routine, is that like sometimes the way that they're doing it isn't even necessarily wrong.
Right.
You're just like used to being like, you know, you could do that this way. And it's like, but it's like an apples versus oranges thing when the person just wanted a piece of fruit, and they're eating an orange, and you're like, you know, you could be eating an apple, and everybody's like, great, I don't care.
Yeah.
So what?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me know.
Cleaning's an interesting one too, because like the idea of cleaning is like you're trying to make the space a better, more enjoyable place.
So let's
and
shit all
people
over it.
oftentimes fight about it constantly, which is the inverse of what it is.
Right.
It's super weird. something I'm always working on, especially now that we have our own home. Yeah, I think in a certain level, like at least I've had to have this with myself. Like I have like my own little space that I like to be a very specific way, and I pretty much don't want anyone to touch it. It's fine for them to come into it, but if they come into it when they go out, I'm going to move all their shit out of it. I'm going to put all my stuff back in the exact same place. It's perfectly ordered. And for me, honestly, it's like a projection of my mind. That little spot has to be ordered right. And so like I do that, and that spot oftentimes ends up becoming like a massive projection of myself. Like how many things are on your mind determines how many things are in that space. But nevertheless, like if someone comes into that, like I don't let them mess with that. But in the rest of the house, I try to take it super chill. Like, oh, there's shit all over the counter again. I just cleaned this up 2 minutes ago. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I clean the counter once a day.
Yeah.
If it gets all screwed up 20 seconds after that, guess you're waiting 23 hours and long time.
Yeah, totally.
Until that's getting done. Let's see. That's my son. Even if it's messy, it's his mess, and he wants it a certain way. Yeah, I mean, I literally used to say that to my mom all the time. She'd be like, you know, you need to clean your room. It looks like a fucking tornado hit this place. I'm like, yeah, but I know where everything is. You know, like, why am I'm supposed to compartmentalize it away into the specific thing? It's not like I had like trash all over the ground or something like that. I did keep a lot of soda cans in my room. It's fair on that one.
Or was it Surge? Did you drink a lot of Surge back in the day?
Mountain Dew a lot of the time.
Mountain Dew with Surge was off Mountain Dew, right? It was the hyped up.
Like, I didn't drink that Surge stuff. Yeah. That's too much for me.
No, Mountain Dew is enough for me.
Too buku. Yeah. No,
too
but
bougie,
like
too bougie.
So like I took my closet at my house in my mom's house, and my closet was like built out with a desk inside of it, and my computer and everything was in there. But then like so off to like the left side of me was this cubby that was like a good like 2 feet deep. That was the closet, right? It was 2 feet deep, but you could like stack it to the roof, and I would literally just like keep stacking. Like I'd fill out the whole bottom, and then I'd just start stacking cans there, and they'd be perfectly ordered, but they would be like 20 high.
Awesome.
But they were completely like encapsulated by the walls except for what was facing me, but it's a whole block of, you couldn't knock them over. Like you had to try to knock them over,
right,
but you could get like 200 fucking cans in your room. Like it was so ridiculous.
Awesome.
Like we had literally like these like the big like 55-gallon like plastic bins that we had outside for recycling, right? When there was literally one time when I cleaned out the cans from my room, we have 4 of these. I filled all 4 of them with cans out of cans that were in my closet. If you walked into my room, you didn't see a single can. If you sat down at my computer, you were like, holy shit, like what have you been doing in here?
Awesome.
You know, it was
awesome.
But it was funny because in a certain way it was like I was too lazy to take the cans out of my room, but I wasn't so lazy that I wouldn't plan some elaborate way of making sure my mom did not see them, but they were still in my room, which probably took more work than carrying them out each time I got done with one.
Yeah, but you enjoyed that shit though. And that's a cool story anyway.
I don't know why. You know what it really was? I would oftentimes jump up to go to the bathroom and realize, it's most efficient to get another drink right now. So then I would grab another drink as I went back into my room. But then I'd end up like, I'm not opening this one yet. But then this one's done. So I put it up here and I'm drinking this other one. And next time I go out, it's kind of like the same situation again.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
So, but really it was to like hide my cans from my mom.
For sure.
And thankfully, after a while, she kind of got the picture that, like, if you don't want to see a dirty part of your house, you might want to stay out of this room, pretty much. It looks like this, and it's not that clean, But, it wasn't like I had trash all over the floor. It was, like, clothes. And I honestly, like, my mom bought me way too much shit, also. I just had too much stuff in my room. All kinds of stuff. So, let's see. Willow's mom was the same. That became me with my husband. He literally only cleans when I'm asleep since he wakes up earlier than me.
Yeah,
that's the beta right there. Yeah, if you don't like someone's opinion of what you're doing and you have to do it with them, just do it when they're asleep. And then you're like, I did my part. Don't talk to me about it. I did my part. Sounds familiar. The worst discussions about cleaning. My mother, the same. I think it really is like, and I think it's becoming less prominent, but mothers of the last several generations really like got that homemaker thing going on where it's like a part of their identity that the house is all clean and put together.
Yep.
And like I don't agree with it. I don't like judge a I mean, I don't even judge a woman on anything that she does. I'm a guy and I don't know shit about being a woman, but I don't judge a woman's like ability to run a household based off of how clean her household is.
Right.
You know, like I understand what it's like on some level to have kids. I've been places that have a lot of kids. I recognize that like you could clean 22 hours a day if you got the right kids. Your shit's still a mess.
Yeah, no shit.
You know, like this.
Well,
There's
also,
no
and
way.
also their cleanliness or their keeping their house orderly doesn't reflect on their self value, which is more the paradigm their parents are coming out of, right? It's their self worth. Their home is a reflection, and there's truth in that,
Sure.
right? Some level for sure, but like, it's not. They put their value into what they do or their actions, being good wife or good homemaker, or
Right.
good cleaner, or good, you know. And it's like it's fine to do those things, but not to base identity off of it for anybody, whatever
Yeah.
gender you are.
I mean, it's cool to want it and everything, but like, if you really seriously at the end of the day, you're like, man, I just can't keep the house put together. I'm such a bad person.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like,
like, there's some problems there.
yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
You could
sure.
completely get rid of the house and still be a good person. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
never mind what it really looks like.
Give 'em a place that's
Not really a
disaster.
big deal.
Right.
Mello used to be nitpicky with his girlfriend. She's very messy and does not clean well. I used to fight about it with her, but now I've realized that since I'm the one who wants to clean, I have to clean everything for her. That's really the thing, right? You want something done right, do it yourself.
No, if
You
that
know,
works for you and it's not building resentment, then
I
good
used
for
to
you, man.
I used to totally I understand that side of the fence, even though these days I am definitely the one that cleans all of the stuff. Well, I mean, like the people that are around me, they're pretty cleanly most of the time too. Like I don't think there's a huge imbalance in this, but I definitely hold that same perspective. Like if I want it cleaned up, I need to fucking clean it up. But I also understand it from the other side of being the one who didn't clean up and basically use this as a justification for not cleaning up. It was
Yep.
like, you know, if you want it cleaned up, you go ahead and clean it up. Doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, for sure.
But you got 275 cans in here.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, so? There's not blocking my mouse or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I'm good. It's all good.
That's a problem. I can turn my computer on. It's in my screen.
Willow keeps her room messy specifically to keep people
Hey,
out.
there you go.
I think that's definitely another play of that, right? With like kids to parents. You know, once they start being like, God, I don't know how you would even be in here. Like, I hate coming in here because it's so messy. You're like, wait a minute.
Oh,
You
okay.
hate coming in here because it's so. I mean, what
Guess
if I
I'm
made
never
it
cleaning again.
messier?
Yeah.
Would you come in less if it stunk
Then you
too?
clean your room. Then you clean your room based on levels. Okay, if I want my parents to hang out, potentially come in here, I'll get it all the way clean. If I don't want them coming in this next week, I get it halfway clean. I never get more clean than that 'cause I know they won't come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, half is the maximum. I found out at one point in time my mom didn't like to come into my room when I had rap music on, and I had rap music on
there you
for
go.
about
Yep.
24 hours a day.
Yep.
It's kind of funny. It's weird how we do that too. Like I didn't have a problem with interacting with my mom, but I wanted it to be on my time schedule.
Yeah.
So I would make like my room and my space not amenable to her coming in. She didn't like the smell of pot. She didn't even want me smoking pot in her house, but I did it anyways because really like I wasn't a very respectful child, honestly. But she didn't like my room being dirty. So it was dirty a lot. She didn't like a lot of the music that I listened to. So I was listening to that music, smoking pot with my room all dirty all the time because basically I really only wanted to interact with my mom on my time schedule, which was like when I decide to come out of my room, then we can talk, you know? And I didn't want her to like swoop in and be like, hey, Zach, by the way.
Well, it's also
Yeah.
one thing when like your
Not
mom
by the way.
swoops in and your memories are like, but no, mom swoops in, she says something funny or cool or it's fine, you know. But like when your memories are every time mom swoops in, she's fucking bitching at me, like, it
Yeah.
doesn't create a desire to create space for her to come in regularly.
Sure. My mom definitely had a little bit of a passive aggressive thing going on. So she'd make a joke about how annoying my room was a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It was involved in there.
You're like, wow, thanks, mom. But the high level joke there that really felt good.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I got to learn firsthand about passive aggressiveness for most of the beginning of my life. See, my girlfriend does not know where anything is. I'm always helping her find stuff. It's interesting too, like when people aren't the ones that like when you don't clean up your own space, you oftentimes don't really have nearly as much idea of like where stuff is. You know, I think it's beneficial to keep your space clean and like kind of clean your space up, just so you like have a good working memory of like what the hell's here, where is it? You know, it makes it for like quicker function in the moment when you're not cleaning it up, just because you know where shit is. I scrolled down like a lot all of a sudden.
No, that's right. They were pretty caught up.
Jen had so many chores growing up.
right.
I found that cleaning was where I got the most attention. My parents actually donned the phrase a Jenny job. My mom would tell my siblings to do a Jenny job.
So Jen won
Cin-
the game, is what she's saying. She was
Cinderella.
able to clean perfectly, and her mom praised her for all her cleaning instead of criticized her. She won. He won the game, Jen. The ego game. To
Yeah.
satisfy parents.
You're the best Cinderella in the household. you still can't go to the ball.
Yeah. Do a Jenny job and stay home and clean.
Yeah. I let go a lot of the OCD. My house is a tornado, and sometimes it's nice. I hear that. So, like, in recent times, a lot of my own journey has been about, like, getting away from just battling what reality is. And, like, one way that projects itself is that, like, this place is a mess. Yeah, whatever. Just, like, I don't feel like caring about that right now. Oh. And it's really helpful when you can get to that position where you feel like you have a choice about whether or not you want to care about that. You don't feel like I have to care about that in whatever the situation is. Yeah. Like, I mean, it can be with really dramatic things. You know, like you're together with a significant other and then they cheat on you. If you get that moment to decide, like, do I actually want to care about this? And you get the time to, like, actually weigh it and go, like, yeah, that's not going to be very good for my life to really actually care about this. You could just be like, no, I guess that's over with.
Yep.
Or I guess it's fine. It's not really
guess
cheating
it's
on me
fine.
because I don't care whether they do that. I don't want to have that kind of problem. It ain't about that to me, you know? So, I don't know. It's really liberating to be able to make the choice. It's not even that you need to be liberated from the situation, right?
Totally, 100%.
You literally just need to be able to make a choice in the situation, and maybe that is liberation
Whatever
in of itself.
situation you're in, I mean, shit happens. Who knows how you got there? You could dissect all that. But once
Sure.
you're in it, you're in it. So, yeah, it's all about you being able to be liberated to make a choice within whatever situation you're in. Find
Yeah.
a framework that works for whatever circumstance you're in.
I think that's interesting concept though, because when a lot of times we think about liberation, we think of like getting out of it,
Yeah.
right? And that kind of hot take on liberation is that liberation
internalized.
isn't getting out of it,
Right.
but rather being okay with being in it.
Or feeling internally enabled to be present in a situation with all tools you may presently need to get through it. And
Sure.
not be liberated because now you have the tools to get through the situation, not to be free from it and run from it.
Yeah, I mean, when we say though, like we're rinsing hairs with words again,
Sure.
but you know, you say like get through it, right? Like, am I liberated from it if I'm getting through it?
Oh, sorry. Okay,
Right.
let me change terminology. So, having an awareness that you have all the tools to be present in it. That's not some bad or good circumstance. It is the circumstance you're in, but you
Yeah, it's like
know-
maybe like actually like we could maybe even go like a little bit of a dimension further and say
Yeah.
that knowing that you have the space to navigate whatever the situation
Perfect,
is.
much better. Yep.
So it's not feeling basically like claustrophobic now.
Yeah.
So you're
Don't feel
liberated from the
trapped.
compression
yeah,
of the
yeah.
situation, even though situation's still there. It's just kind of,
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
less dense. I grew up to have OCD around cleaning. I'm not this way now. I love a clean house, but it does not need to be perfect today. Yeah, that OCD.
Yes. Sternman 369s.
I totally understand why people have like specific things. They're like, I want it exactly like this. Really, that kind of goes back to a certain way of what I was saying before. It's not like one way or the other is not necessarily bad. It's when you can't do one of them. You know what I mean? Like it's literally just it's impossible for you to do it that way. I cannot stand the house being dirty, right? Like, well, that's a yikes because your house is probably going to be dirty sometime and
Well,
you're going to have a
that's a
hard time with
yikes.
that. You know, that's a fucking yikes.
Yeah, no doubt.
You want to do something about that, probably.
Yeah.
You know, can you guarantee your house is never going to get dirty unless you make sure no one's ever there? And is a house that you live in by yourself actually a home? You know what I mean? Or is it just a place where you fucking go to sleep and keep your stuff? It's kind of like a storage shed, really more if you're the only one that lives there in a certain way.
Storage shed, bed.
Even the
Spread.
bed, right? Like it's the place where you store your body while your consciousness checks out and you get some rest. So it's kind of like a storage shed on all levels in a certain way.
Fair enough.
Kids helped a bit with curing the OCD. Yeah, if you got that cleaning OCD, just like adopt some kids for like a year and you probably will not have cleaning OCD actually. It will break you of it. Plus, she does not know how to clean or organize. Once I learned this, I was like, oh God, let me help. Yeah. I mean, and it's a good way to look at that, like, let me help, right? You realize that someone struggles with that, so you realize a place that you can add value in the relationship is to basically be like that cleanly organizing force. And that's not necessarily a problem. Like, you know, one of her strengths is not organization or cleanliness, but she's probably got other strengths, other places, because she ain't spending any time worrying about those things. You know, I spend so much time thinking about organization and technically keeping things clean. I can't imagine what I would do with my life if I didn't need to think about those. And I said need to think about those right there. That's an insinuation of my own thing. I don't think about the other way. And like I literally just don't. I functionally can't. Right? Because it never occurs to me to ever do that. When a situation happens, I'm like, oh, well, you could put this there and this there and this there, but you're going to want to get this dirtiness off of it. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way my mind processes it. So, Chris, oh, this was back to this question, this thing up here about no one can touch your kid's toys that are hidden and shoved between the couches. He's got them all furred away all over the place. And where was the other comment? Chris sings the cleanup song but hands me all his toys.
Oh, nice. I like it.
Aaron, you must be having a blast over there.
I am. Yes. Yes is the answer.
I don't mind cleaning though, since I'm the one who wants it clean. We don't ever go into my sister's room. Yeah, that's a thing too. Like when you are the one that's gonna take that role, you kind of have to like establish like what spaces do I care about.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm not cleaning every space. Like I'm not gonna go clean your car for you, right? I'm just not gonna ride in it. Will you take my car instead? Oh man. Willow always wanted to meet Cinderella. Generella. Yeah, kind of true. Jen really did carry out a bit of like a Cinderella story thing inside of her life. I think actually a lot of the modernized women are, well, for strap on your tinfoil hat, you know, conditioned by specifically this story, the Cinderella story, into a whole lot of concepts that are not actually good for their operation. The idea that, like, you know, even if you're following your heart according to your family, you're being a bad daughter. And it like kind of, it normalizes the idea of being torn between family and like lover, right? And that's not really something that any of us want. We don't want to like, oh, I fell in love with Jane, but my parents hate Jane. Like no one wants that situation. Yeah. And it kind of like, it normalizes that. It normalizes the idea of all these kinds of like random illusions and ideas of like this big hunt for the one on the masculine side of it, right? Like you met the girl that one time, she left her glass slipper, and now you got to hunt across the whole kingdom looking at the feet of every single woman in order to find who can actually wear this impossible slipper, right? I don't know, man. Like, what if like the first 250 girls' feet that you looked at were just fine? What if they were Cinderella in their own right? They're just not the one that specifically rode off in an ornate carriage that, unbeknownst to you, was actually a pumpkin, right? Like, it's a normalization of kind of a weird dialogue, you know? Not about, like, I mean, Prince Charming had suitors all over in front of him. He was, you know, the most charming prince of all the land. Yet the one thing that he wanted was the shit that was not right in front of him. The thing that was functioning like running away from him because she's playing out her own little like, oh my gosh, I have to appease my mother who doesn't even seem to fucking like me kind of story and shit. Yeah. And like, you know, all respect due to the parents out there, but if like your kid grows up and is like, you know, my mom or my dad is an asshole, like expect them not to talk to you very much. It's just the reality of the situation. It's going to happen eventually. And you should hope that it's going to happen eventually in a certain way, because otherwise you have like this inauthentic relationship with someone who's supposed to be your family, where you like walk up and you're like, oh, hey, honey, it's so good to see you. Yeah, I'm so glad that we're reconnecting. God, I can't stand this bitch. You know what I mean? Like, who wants that type of fake ass shit in their life? Really? Like, neither side actually wants that in their life. They feel like they need to do that because of the familial tie. You know, and like I understand that emotional connection to your family, but given my own life, I also understand how you can get by just fine without your genetic family.
Right.
You know, my dad and my mom were divorced when we were 3 years old. I did not talk to my dad a whole lot, did not provide financial support and stuff. Like 14 years old or so, I pretty much quit listening to what my mom said entirely as an act of revolution. Yeah, she bailed me out of a couple things and a couple bad situations, but on the day to day, I wasn't like looking for stuff from her. My mom died when I was 27. For the last 9 years of my life, I functionally had no connection to family. I don't talk to extended family on either my mother or my father's side. My mother is dead. I had no brothers and sisters. I don't really talk to my dad that much, right? Like, I love him. I care. I feel like he did perfect for what I needed to be, honestly. But what that means did not mean that he was like some super hyperactive role in my life. And he's not a super hyperactive role these days either. I talk to him occasionally. I talk to 100 other people more often, right? And my life is not lacking. And I don't feel that I'm lacking family. In fact, in many ways, like, I feel like I have the perfect family. I have a family of people around me that like really actually care about me. And we're like, it's not just like we were the same. We're actually the same. We like the same shit. We do the same shit. We have the same goals. We have the same ideologies. We have the same worldview. We actually like really actually appreciate each other's company. And I just literally wouldn't have necessarily had that with just a familial connection. I was very lucky. My mom was resonant with a lot of things that were interesting to me. You know, dad not as much, but some things here and there. You know what I mean? But for some people, this is like way outside the box, right? Like the dad's a staunch Baptist, and the kid basically is like a transgender technocrat who wants to move to Silicon Valley, and they're just like they're totally different opposite sides of the spectrum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we have to question even like this kind of narrative. My family is my family, and I must keep them as such, even if they don't match what I'm trying to do with my life. Like, you don't have to. We normally try to. Is that the right thing for you? Right? Like, because in my situation, in a certain way, like, it wasn't realized, like, I didn't just question, like, is that the right thing for me? Oh, no, it's not. Okay, they can go away. And then suddenly, like, like my mom dies. I don't talk to any of my extended. It's not really like that. I didn't really, like, per se, have the choice. It is what it is.
Right.
That's what it was. I was who I was. My extended side of the family, they didn't really want to talk to that too much. Right? I didn't really care to talk to them very much either. So it's fair. Like, I don't hold any grudge against them. Maybe they hold a grudge against me. I wouldn't know. I don't talk to them. Right?
Right. Yeah.
My mom, she dies of cancer. Right? I didn't want my mom to die of cancer. I was more terrified about that than anything else in the world at that point in time. You know what I mean? So, like, I didn't want that. Does any son want his father to be divorced from his mother at 3 years old, and as a byproduct of just that distancing, which I don't hold a grudge against him for having that. I don't even, it's tough to say in the situation. Is it my mom's fault? Is it my dad's fault? Why did it happen? I don't know. It just is the way it is, right? And it's not a big deal, but I didn't want these things. I didn't ask for these things. That's the way that it turned out. And if it can just turn out that way, then to say like, well, I have to keep in touch with them. Well, I mean, you don't have to. In a traumatic, actually,
totally.
like bad situation, you completely lose that opportunity. So you don't have to. If you had to, that opportunity couldn't possibly be taken away. So we have to question, like other things, utilize our discernment, I think, and say, like, is this what fits what I want my life to be?
Yes.
Whole some of the parts, man. If you get enough parts in the place that match exactly what you want your life to be, it turns out your life is that. Like, it doesn't turn into that. It fucking is that now because it has enough of the parts. So, that jumped a bunch. I don't know. We're starting down here. There's a series called 10th Kingdom. It's about a girl going through a portal in New York City to another world where all the fairy tales were true. It's on YouTube. Would definitely recommend it. Yeah,
right,
I mean,
in
a certain way, like this, like, I think we live inside of a portal where the fairy tales are half true inside of our mind, and in a certain way, we try to act them out to bring them the rest of the way. In a lot of cases, if you take the time to dig into like the Disney stories that are the popular ones, you take the time to dig into like the Grimm brothers fairy tales, these basically all the highly popularized modernized fairy tales, if you dig into those from an esoteric perspective, you can definitely get yourself going, what the fuck are they talking about here? Like, row, row, row your boat, life is but a dream? Hold up, wind that back. Right? You know, that's a weird concept. You know, that you're just saying inside of some nursery rhyme that's like this hypnotic lullaby. You tell them life is but a dream. It's great, like in the context that they're using it usually like that.
Right.
Like it's okay, you can go to sleep. Like nothing's gonna go wrong. That's like the concept of it. But if we take that direct across, what are the implications of your life
Right.
being nothing more than a dream? You know, like what's really going on there? My grandparents pretty much played the evil stepmom and sister role when it came to my dating life. I could literally date no one ever without their approval and couldn't be alone with my boyfriend. I've heard about that so much, you know, so much that like, and I, in a certain sense, I understand it coming from the male position. I know, like when I ended up having my son, in a certain way, I was like, whew, dodged the bullet on that one. Like I didn't want her to be my daughter. Like I'm gonna have to like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is I know what people are like my age. I don't want her to deal with any of those.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? But so I can in a certain way, like I understand from one side the overprotectiveness of it, and on the
Mhm.
other side I also played the role of like, well, my girlfriend can't go do anything or talk to me on the phone because her parents feel this way,
Right, right, right.
right?
Totally.
So
Mhm.
I've been on both sides of the fence on that one. Neither all that enjoyable.
Sounds like a good comment to wrap the show up on.
Family is the people that make you feel at home, not necessarily the people related to you. I couldn't agree with this more. That goes back to the idea that if you're in a house by yourself, is it actually even a home at all? What makes a home? And in many ways, a home is the people that are there and the way that they make you feel. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to make sure that you're managing that right. And, you know, I think at the heart of this show is really more about self development, recognizing that you're the person that's always in your house. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You're always home with yourself. So you got to make sure that you're a decent person. It's important. Especially before we go around being like, all the rest of you people are assholes. Right? Like, it's a funny quote out there. Like, if you spend your whole day surrounded by assholes, you're the asshole.
Mm.
And like, I take that to heart big time. Like, if I spend a day going like, man, these people are so stupid, I'm like, wait a minute. Hang on a second. How are you not transcending what's going on right now? Like maybe you're the stupid one. You know about this stuff. What are you expecting out of them?
And if home is
Yeah.
where the heart is, in that sense, but home is where heart-brain coherence is.
Mhm.
And then when you're around other people that are also in heart-brain coherence, it just amplifies the feeling of home, I guess, in community. But it starts with you. You know, wherever you are, wherever you go, there you are. So how do you feel like home, feeling at home wherever you are?
Yeah. I think
That's
the
the
people around
trick.
us really help us with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my word. I had to literally leave before midnight on my dates. Like you had to be back home before midnight even. Midnight's pretty good. I've heard of other
Yeah,
girls
it's like-
back in the day like 9 o'clock,
Yeah,
10
yeah.
o'clock, when the sun goes down. All kinds of craziness like
Mhm.
that. Cinderella had to have a facade with her stepmother and sisters, and she ends up being part of a monarchy as queen. Went from one facade to another. Does Cinderella ever get to be her true self? Wink,
Well
wink. That's what
said.
I'm talking
Yeah, yeah,
about,
yeah.
my man, girl, whatever.
Really,
like
really?
both sides of it. Like seriously, like being caught up inside of this matriarchy is the same thing that we do with a patriarchy on the other side of it. We sit there and we basically like try to outdo our father. We try to be the one who runs our own household, and we try to compete against all of our brothers, be they genetic or not. And we're jumping around inside of this bullshit where we're never actually becoming ourselves because we're too busy trying to beat everybody else out at whatever their game is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the hell is that? You know, what a great observation of Cinderella. Definitely, man. You know, definitely. Does she ever get to be her true self? That is the real question. Yeah.
That's the question.
Everything was done in secret. Their biggest fear was me getting pregnant, which I did, but I was 25, not a high school kid. Yet it seemed like that when it happened because we weren't married. Yeah. Yikes. Yikes on that one. I kind of steer clear from a lot of nursery rhymes for that reason. Yeah. This is do. It's different when you're a teenager, but it's not very fun when you're in your 20s and not allowed to date anyone on your own to avoid family conflict.
Yeah, no
Obviously, I
doubt.
didn't listen very well. Always had a curfew until I moved out of my grandparents, regardless of how old I was or financially independent. As long as I lived there, I had to abide by their rules. Hispanic culture. That's why sometimes we need to ask, is our home actually our home? And is our family actually our family? If they won't allow us to be what we are, perhaps we should expand our understanding a bit and question whether or not that's actually what fits with the format of what we want to be. Because we really are functionally infinite creators we just really like what we create is not entirely conscious to ourselves, and a lot of it requires us to make some hard breaks that maybe society doesn't think we should make sometimes. So anyways, we thank you all for joining us here tonight. Like,
Yes.
subscribe,
Please.
share. We're going to head on out of here and check out all the stuff in the description. Check us out tomorrow at 1, 5, and 8 again. 8 o'clock with us, 5 o'clock with Jen, and 1 o'clock with Angela Miller live from the UK with Women's Work. And I believe she has other people on there. I don't know what the schedule is for it. Nevertheless, catch us on all 3 of those shows. Catch us on the replay. We love you very much.
Love you
we'll
very
see you
much.
in the future. Hope you have a wonderful night. Bye now.
Bye.